Wait, what? What is this argument, man? No, just stick to, don't come up with your own argument. Just stick to the basic conservative arguments, dog. No, you are entirely too stupid. You are entirely too dumb to come up with your own arguments. Trump had a Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo.
Let me go back to what
interview. I think this is good to cover as well. But the time is now, ladies and gentlemen. The time is now. Uncle Sam Seder, Uncle Samothy, went and talked to 20 Trump supporters. Okay? Sam Seder went and talked to 20 Trump supporters. And boy, oh boy, this is, I believe, something that's going to make your blood boil. Okay? It's Hogwatch. It's back. It's Unk Watch. Let's take a look.
What's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone.
Well, starting off strong, you got a lady who says xenophobic nationalism is good. Weird. That's a crazy thing to just say with your name and face associated to it. But I guess these demons don't care any longer. They're like, well, this is basically akin to that one chatter from a couple days ago being like, what's wrong with being a Nazi? You know? Except that person was an anonymous account, probably on their 8th sock account after being banned 7 times prior. This person is just actively saying it with their full chest.
Everyone should be a part of the same culture.
Did you pre-watch? I thought you said you were avoiding it. No, I saw this clip. I saw the trailer. That's it. I didn't see any other clips. I only saw the trailer.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. Like,
is this her? This photo is viscerally disgusting to me. Got angry just from seeing it. Wait, this is the person who said, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Bro, this is so amazing. Let's just say, I didn't ever realize that I would get to the point where I would be seen as like a figurehead for all things left. But it is not an accident. There's so many people, no matter how big or small, that want to do commentary or have done commentary or are just conservative in general, have conservative leanings in any issue. It could be even for one issue, have made me the avatar for all things that they hate. It is wild. You can be a liberal, a Democratic Party voter, and like be conservative on one issue, and you'll be like, I hate this guy. I hate this Hasanabi guy. I hate him the most. I hate him more than anything else. Lots of hogs love saving photos of you on their phone. Weird as to be honest. Yeah, it is weird as but I think it's because in their minds they've made me into this like avatar of leftism, socialism, or any number of different progressive values that they just despise. That's it. This lady is an adult Catholic convert. Oh my God. Someone sent me a video I'm in of Hasan reacting to Canada's mass immigration problems. He blamed the entire housing crisis on landlord greed and denied mass immigration's negative effect on housing. Why is supply and demand such a difficult concept for leftists? Ian Miles Wrong says he is very stupid. She says, like, yes, landlords woke up one day and decided to become more greedy. It has nothing to do with the fact that we let half the population of Punjab in over the past 3 years. Wait, she's Canadian? Pick a struggle, man. So she's Canadian and she's an adult Catholic convert and she exclusively talks about like racism in America. Oh my God. Amazing. Wow. Wow. Yeah. It's just supply and demand. That's what it is. She's a CPAC supporter. Of course she is. How does this keep happening? Fascist network of like-minded dumbasses. They also stupidly think, I do think that they stupidly think I am like all things left. I found out the leftist I'm debating next week gets his info from Hasan Piker. This should be easy. What? She wasn't talking about Sam Seder, right? It's in front of my school, but will not be live streamed, sadly. Wait, what? Bro, I didn't know who the f this person was until this very moment, when she went up against Sam Seder. I mean, this is from November, but they filmed this in January, so maybe this was, next week, probably not. Anyway, I didn't know who the f this person was. Turns out I'm in their mind, like, quite frequently. They got photos of me. They got screenshots of me in their phone. They're posting about it. It's not healthy, man. It's not healthy. This is not healthy for you. Okay? That's crazy. Oh. Do people think Steve Bannon is some secret Nazi? No, people think Steve Bannon is an open Nazi. All right, stop scouring this person's like thirsty ass, infatuated tweets about me and other right-wing issues. I'm letting you know this is a long ass video. All right, let's keep going.
You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. Hi, I'm Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report, and today I am surrounded by 20 conservatives. My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
What a great, oh God, he presented that so perfectly. I really want to know, this is a tough way to tackle this argument from the conservative perspective, because that's just the truth. And not only is it the truth, it also is presented in a way that like makes it really hard to argue against.
All right. Sorry, Sam.
No worries.
All right. I think I have a slight issue with...
Okay, first of all, this is making the best latte of all time, okay? Why is this barista-looking ass sitting across from Sam Seder and not talking about how Sam Seder is not radical enough? Like, this is a card-carrying DSA member in a polyamorous relationship with a non-binary person by the name of Sock, and yet here he is sitting across from Sam, not talking about it, things from an anarchist perspective and saying he's not going hard enough on how the concept of a shower is actually an unjustifiable hierarchy, but instead he's going to be sitting here being like Donald Trump is our Lord and Savior. Dudes that look like they own a vinyl collection should not be arguing to defend Donald Trump. Dudes who look like they've experimented with pegging and talk about it openly should not be arguing about Donald Trump being great. What the is going on? Can you stop commenting on his looks? No one cares. No, these are political markers, or at least they used to be. They used to be. It's not anymore.
The back end of the premise, I guess, Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, give corporations more power. I'd rather center the conversation around the democratic, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, want to support the issues that, people are voting for him for.
I mean, I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA, sure. Right? You know that. Right. In government agencies. The A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, what? Right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being, inaccessible to.
Dog, the conservative movement literally is running around saying that accessibility options like ramps are bad. Like they want more stairs. Weirdly enough, which is so funny because like conservatives are the ones who are sitting on those mobile scooters going up those ramps. So it's just like odd that they would ever make such a thing a political movement, a formative part of their political movement. But no, that's, that is what that is what's going on.
To get into a job, it rather wants to de-incentivize corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases, right?
Okay, but DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different communities that have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean within government agencies, it means things like let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around.
Doc, I'm sorry. You're talking about
So that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in the.
You're really going to tell me that this dude is not going to start the conversation with a land acknowledgement? You're telling me that this dude is not going to talk about how, you know, while we're having this conversation, I do want to start off with a land acknowledgement that, you know, this conversation taking place is on stolen Lakota land, you know, that type of shit. I mean, come on, bro. Anthony Fentanyl. That's so stupid. By the way, I'm not the only one who thought this. You know, conservatives watch this, and this also goes back to the argument that I always point to. Conservatives love responding to shapes and colors and not actually, like, you know, the real meat of the matter. Because Cat Turd and all these other conservatives that watch these videos thought that Sam Seder was the conservative one and thought that these, like, gay libtard looking commentators were actually the gay libtards. They literally thought that these guys were the liberals. Liberals are so dumb.
Which is to give corporations more power.
DEI essentially provides tax cuts for the.
Like, Cat Turd thought that this person was the liberal, and Sam Seder, who was clean cut and older and wearing like an outfit that they thought was better associated with conservatism, thought that they were the conservatives. Liberals are so dumb. That look you get when you know you have to debate a brainless, witless social justice warrior clown whose IQ is mid-50s. He's the progressive, actually. The guy you're calling the clown is a conservative. Whoops. Really? He sounded like the adult in the room. Lol. This is why I was talking about the way that these guys look. Much to think about. Will this person go back to the drawing board and maybe reconsider his worldview? No, he won't do that. Because they're dumb hogs. Anyway, let's continue.
These agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town,
Sure.
metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
Right. This is where it begins, but this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well,
so
then why rescind DEIA
the
requirements in government agencies?
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with corporations.
Do you have the evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper bases. We can even look at.
I mean,
we can even look at.
Do you have
DNC's,
any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year. There was no reason to nominate Kamala as she wasn't democratically selected. She wasn't. She didn't go through a single primary. None of these things.
So you're saying that Kamala was the vice president of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that party.
Dude, the greatest counter to this is literally to say, yes, Kamala Harris is a DEI hire by one, pointing to Joe Biden's. Oh my God, they're so bad at debating that now I'm debating for them. Okay. The best part of this argument is to literally say every vice president to a certain degree is a DEI hire. Okay. Joe Biden was a DEI hire to Barack Obama, just like Kamala Harris was a DEI hire to Joe Biden. Okay. You can just say that. That's a much better argument. Sam Seder would literally agree with you, and you would actually stoop him in this situation because he has made that argument, right? He has made that argument that, like, Joe Biden is a DEI hire for Barack Obama. You could say that to him, and then you could turn around and say Joe Biden himself said that he was simply looking for a vice president on the virtue of being a black woman. That's all that he he basically ruined that argument by assuming it as a positive. Like, you could literally turn around and be like, Joe Biden said he was looking for a black woman. He wasn't looking for competence, more so that he said he was looking for just someone who fits that role. Okay? It's a great counter. Yeah, Lyndon Johnson's Southern DEI hire for JFK. Yup.
Do you realize
except
there were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972?
Well, this isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well, sure.
I mean, Joe Biden should have dropped out even 3 years ago, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primaries, she wasn't the next man up. None of this. She wasn't the next person.
Well, she was the vice president,
right? Of course, but she wasn't in primaries.
Detail. But
right,
listen,
well,
aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well. But that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search for a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job. You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have
what the fuck what is happening back there? Oh my Lord, what is happening back here? What the yo, conservatives are lost the plot, dude. What the fuck? I didn't even notice. I didn't notice there was a stand user. Okay. I didn't know there was an enemy stand user in the crowd. You know what I mean? Golden win.
Of folks who identify as as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all about.
But you're cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government.
He's saying this is such a funny way to admit defeat when you're like, well, you've actually presented the argument in a way that I can't agree against, and I don't like that. That's all he said. He's like, I don't actually like that you're presenting this argument in a way that makes my side look stupid. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I guess you should agree to him then. What do you mean? I can't argue against this. I'm agreeing with your argument, and I don't like it. You have no counterpoints, so you just basically have two options here. Concede or just be a dumbass conservative. Of course, dumbass conservative is going to go with the second one.
Okay.
Was a function of doing exactly what I said, had nothing to do with.
It is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might.
Yeah, this is the age-old conservative position. Okay, they do this about abortion too, where it's like, we think abortion is murder. Okay, all right. Well, abortion protections are overturned by the Constitution after they lied and said that this was a super precedent, whatever, right? And then now they're forced to basically bring back abortion rights to where they existed before the Roe v. Wade protections, during the Roe v. Wade protections, because it seems like all of the abortion protections were actually valid. Okay. Women who have miscarriages being targeted falsely and unjustifiably. Women who cannot carry a pregnancy to term because of other complications. All this stuff now are points that conservatives have to concede on after spending the past couple of decades being like, abortion is murder no matter what. It's like, all right, so I guess you didn't think abortion was murder, dumbass. You can't turn around in that process and be like, well, conservatives agree with this stuff. Okay, so why did you seek out the banning of abortion then? My position on this, by the way, in the way that these guys look, and I think that a lot of these are like new conservatives in general, is that COVID cooked it. I think COVID cooked a lot of people's brains. I said COVID broke this nation in meaningful ways we're too stupid to understand. Because Toffee says, watching the Sam Seder versus MAGA Jubilee video, I feel like something major has shifted here. I can't get over it. Why on earth do conservatives look like this now? Dudes who look like this should be doing theater and making iced lattes, not arguing in favor of fascism. To which I responded with, it's COVID. I think that these guys are victims of COVID brain rot, straight up. Felix replied to me and said, nah, this is how conservatives will look like for quite a long time. He said, I definitely agree that we'll be experiencing the social background radiation from COVID/2020 at large for years to come. But we've had conservatives who look like this / their respective generations' versions of this for longer than we've had passenger jets or integrated circuits. And I respect Felix's position. So he is also a hog whisperer. I do think that there's a lot of granola ass liberals though that I think there's nothing dumber than being like, dude, conservatism is counterculture. It's like every 4 years they cycle this out and they test the field, and then like the broader majority of Christian conservatives that vote for the Republican Party reliably are like, no, shut the fuck up. That's not, like, what are you talking about? No.
Kaya.
I don't want to hire you. You have face tattoos. Get the fuck out of my store. Yeah. There's nothing that says punk rock like funding the police more. The conservatives who look like that are just libertarians that call themselves classical liberals. Face tats are not woke. I mean, why camera is so zoomed in? It's because this is the other camera that I have, because my primary camera is busted right now. It just like has this incredibly blown out image. Look, this is what my primary camera looks like. I guess it's not so bad right now because the lighting changed, but it just makes me look real pale. But you can see Kaya at least. Also, I like being up close and personal. It's great. It's like I'm talking directly to you. I'm in your living room. Anyway, let's get back to the Jubilee video.
Not have been specific
What
numerical
else was he trying
quotas.
to take out with
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting pushed into no qualification.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true at all. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't,
Give me one example.
You can't ask me to pull up numbers when I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer for you, but these are
Wait, what? I can't pull up numbers? Then why do you have a firmly held conviction on this issue? Excuse me, if you can't give at least one example, then why the f are you even entertaining this? You knew that there was going to be a debate, but that even outside of the fact that you knew that there was going to be a debate and you probably should have prepared for it, this is the thing that frustrates me to no end about how conservatives operate, where they'll just have these like incredibly firmly held convictions, this worldview, right? Where you're like, no, DEI equals die. You don't understand. And it's like, but you don't have a single example that you can bring up. Why do you have this conviction? You can't even point to a goddamn example. At least Charlie Kirk can be like, affirmative action is bad because a black woman took my job at West Point or whatever. You know what I mean? Took my slot at West Point. He's lying, but at least he's lying alongside his worldview, you know? The fact that you can't even come out with like a single lie is shameful. What a shameful way to debate. Holy shit.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return to your...
See ya.
Okay, so I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue is, and I kind of referred to this before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused in a lot of ways. When you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of gender, race.
See, I wouldn't say like the optics of this dude is giving liberal, you know? This dude straight up, I mean, I see this dude, I'm gonna be like, okay, I know what this is about. You know what I mean? I know what's going on here. The other dudes, on the other hand, they do straight up look like liberals.
Right? That is an abuse of a system. It's no longer fair, but more about just perpetuating one aspect of, visual compelling aspects. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse.
Okay, well,
and what that is it's moral grandstanding. It's that because we have more black women, we sell better soda. Like that.
I got you.
That is not
Well, that's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me. And I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years, there's nothing, I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job. I think
what's happening is we're talking about 2 different things.
But I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
you're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people as a
Oh, you've already lost the argument. You're just basically, again, trying to this is a very tight premise. Okay, this is a very tight statement. So it's very difficult to counter it. But the premise is like Trump's attacks on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power. It's because it's true. Not only is it true, but it's very well worded. So that's precisely the reason why, like, no matter how smart these guys might be, and I'm sure some of them are smart, they're having a really hard time tackling it. So they're like, oh, well, I don't mean like Trump. I don't want to talk about Trump. Drop Trump from the argument. Okay, well, he put Trump in there.
The whole have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because, again,
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case, but again, my point is we're talking about abuse of a system. What you're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white, you can't do this, and liberals like to do this thing where they create systems, and then they created the whole idea of woke, and then they backed away, and then conservatives say woke, and then they're like, well, we don't know what woke is. They created DEI. Biden literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden Democrats for the rest after that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said that. And then we have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not living in reality.
Biden wanted to make sure that there was that there was an opportunity for a black woman to be his vice president.
Yes, but so why did Democrats move away from that and say no, it wasn't because she was a black woman? My point is that
it's not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like, he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I don't believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't saying, that there aren't, because again, even in the Republican Party right now and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
Rewind chatters. It is quite literally an hour and 30 minutes. Shut the f up.
No, but if J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her color of her skin.
Listen, I'm not here to defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85.
This is a decent take. This is a good way to restructure the argument. He's right. The Democratic Party has a lot of like non-white, non-in-group policies that, especially in terms of like social advocacy that it engages in. But the Republican Party is a true identitarian party in the sense that they do actively advocate for white identity politics. It's actually it's a decent way to reframe the argument. And yes, while there are thoughts on her fans calling CPS on Ethan, what the are you talking about, big dog? What an insane assertion. Is that even something that Ethan has said? I feel like people are now hallucinating positions that I don't even think Ethan Klein is saying. Why in the ever-loving would I ever do that, or even one of my fans would ever do that? He said that? Bro, is there a thing that happens? Is there a thing that happens on the planet to Ethan that I am not responsible for? There is no world in which I would ever entertain that, okay? That is a psychotic thing, especially because, let me tell you why I would never do that. Because I'm not Ethan Klein, okay? That's right. I would never in a million years entertain such a thing. Never, ever, ever in a million years would I entertain such a thing. It's completely unacceptable. It's completely ridiculous. The fact that people have done that is also insane. I don't know who did it. I don't know what they did. But the notion that I would ever entertain that is insane. Okay. What's also crazy about this process is like the only thing I've done so far in terms of Ethan Klein's many attacks against me, which have obviously backfired on him spectacularly. And that's actually caused them to double down, triple down, quadruple down in very meaningful ways, including randomly going after Redditors, trying to get Reddits unbanned or trying to get Reddits banned, is that it's pure projection. It's quite literally projection. I have not done a fraction of what he has done to me in return. Not even a fraction. Do you understand? I've also maintained the position that I think snark Reddits are genuinely not good for people's mental health. This is something that I have talked about before, time and time again. I don't think that I don't think it's a healthy thing to do. Hate watching, especially as someone who personally has a shit ton of hate watchers and content creators who are actively engaging in the hate watching and creating communities around hate watching. I know what that does to a person's mentality. Initially, it was Sex Destiny, who has ruined his own life because of his own decisions. And now Ethan Klein is carrying the torch. If his initial analysis, if his initial argument is oh, well, Hasan is doing snark shit to me, which I think is ridiculous, by the way, because the only thing I do is actively defend myself against his many different smears. If that is considered snark, what the fuck is Ethan Klein's subreddit? What the fuck is he doing every single day? He lies about every single thing that I do every day, every time he's broadcasting, including, I guess, but not limited to the fact that he somehow tied back someone engaging in a heinous act of calling Child Protective Services on him to me. Ridiculous. Truly ridiculous. The difference between Ethan and I is that I don't actually have to massage a narrative. He just actively does that to himself. He just says wrong shit, and then I respond to it and I show why it's wrong. With him, on the other hand, he has to literally take something out of context and be like, well, here it is. Here he is doing it again. I don't think I've ever talked about this. No, of course not. Of course I would never talk about any of that shit. I would never talk about his kids. I would never, that's ridiculous. I also don't think it's appropriate at all. And I will also personally not entertain what may or may not have happened either. I don't think it's healthy. Yeah. I don't do calls to action either. He's the only one with calls to action. He actively tries to brigade everything that anytime a journalist ever written about me, he will post it on his Instagram to be like, go harass this journalist, straight up. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He doesn't say literally to do that. Even he is smart enough to understand that would be a bridge too far. They tried to brigade the Theo Von pod. They tried to brigade the Trash Taste pod. Every podcast appearance I do, they're like, oh, go tell everybody he loves to do rapes is an insane thing. Go tell everybody he loves when Jewish women are raped is a psychotic thing to do. And I think that there has to be some semblance of accountability here in terms of not even accountability enforced by others, but you got to take ownership over your own actions. If you keep doing this over and over and over and over again, yeah, of course, your own fan base is going to your own fan base is going to develop resentment towards you, especially if you're in the process of like banning anyone who speaks out against it. Here, October 21st, 2024, proof you've never supported Snark subreddit.
Snark is not insane though. No, dude. Anyone that is that invested in a content creator is not all there. I'm sorry. You might have been a foot soldier at a certain point and now you hate Ethan, but like going to communities like that, and I repeat this all the time, and I'm saying this at a time when Ethan is basically using, once again, a cyber stalking operation that has been ongoing for 6 years, something that he knows very well, something that he has also been in the crosshairs of as well, to launch ridiculously cynical attacks against me and all of these other people.
Something showed up on my TikTok For You page the other day, or yesterday, that I actually retweeted. But someone literally went through the effort of putting together a like 7-minute compilation of me throughout October, in the aftermath of October 7, with like the actual timeline. Someone posted a 7-minute compilation of me defending Ethan and telling people to off and not to go after him and whatnot. It's wild that this man has had so much animosity and so much smoke for me when I kept saying, like, I don't want to turn this into drama. I don't want to turn it into, like, I think that this is the issues that we're talking about are far more consequential. I don't think Ethan's opinion on the matter is all that significant. It's just entirely manufactured and one-sided, dude. I believe I can communicate with, that I can lead by, from literally November onward, every now and all the way until like I do care about until the past couple of months, literally all the way until the past couple of months. I was like, listen, I think Ethan is on the side of the Palestinians over and over again. This is what the foot soldiers should see, the ones that now hate me and think that this is like, my doing, that I'm single-handedly responsible for all the awful shit that's happening to Ethan. Is not who I am. I will always extend charity and grace, perhaps far too long for a lot, far beyond what like other members of this community will engage in. FYI, chatters are saying he's blaming Denims, not you. They're probably drama baiting you. Apparently, he's not blaming you, by the way. That was bait. Oh, great. Oh, let's continue with the Sam Cedar video. Yes, you're getting farmed, dummy. Yeah, good. Maybe in the process of me getting farmed, if they post that thing on the Ethan Klein subreddit, which has turned into Hasan Hate Hour Snark, perhaps they will realize that maybe they were wrong. That's a good starting point for them, considering that they only care about Ethan Klein and like not really any of the political issues that we're talking about here. Okay? I don't know about Ethan, but there's still hope for his relatively progressive audience that think that they're like pro-Palestine.
Of Republicans are white. That's just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government?
The idea
what does race have to do? What does race have to do? Hold on. What does
Donald Trump didn't have to say?
What does race do?
It's going to be a white male.
No.
Because they all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the premise of DEI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What does race have to do? If let's say DEI on the micro level,
I will tell you right now.
DEI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I going to get better nuggets?
I'll ask you a question.
If the cashier is black or white, what does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it is. First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same like physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protects people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans. It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else.
Oh my God. That is, ooh, they didn't even flag him. He just tapped out. That's crazy. Oh my God. Oh my God. That, oof, the conservative movement is taking L after L after L here. God damn. Was one of the most heartbreaking and embarrassing demonstrations of the decline of American education. We used to disagree on points of opinion. Now we disagree on points of fact.
Someone else has a better, can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right, please return to your seat.
That's crazy. Uh-oh. He's going to do a lane acknowledgement.
Hi.
It's Tony.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How you doing?
Okay, when it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism? So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of, white supremacy. I think actually like we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Wait. Don't jump off that point. He thought he was cooking. He thought he was cooking there. He's like, oh, well, actually, we have no need for DEI or affirmative action or any sort of like protections against marginalized identities because we've moved past racism. And you're actually racist if you don't hire people. But also at the same time, it should be left up to the individual. If they don't want to hire black people, that's okay.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children, because children are being stripped away from
their
parents.
Who's their own children? Wait, children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender-affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids.
If a child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in terms of a DEI initiative, the reason why there's military bans on trans women and trans men is because they do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment, as well as depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills. And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your whether that be hormone, estrogen, or whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war?
Well, the executive orders.
Oh, brother, this guy is so dumb. Holy shit. It's like obvious that he's trying to come across as like kind of intelligent, where he's like, well, actually, I'll have you know, the opposing side of the other side of war. Yeah. I wish I was this dumb so I could finally be happy. Yeah, he's having the best time. You know what I mean? He probably thinks he's cooking right now. That is kind of like a superpower. When you're that stupid, that is a little bit like a superpower where nothing someone says to you will ever impact you because you're too stupid.
That Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA, they just revoked the ability of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well,
what are we talking about here?
Okay, well,
honestly, like they're rewriting history.
Well, that's your perspective, right?
He's like, well, Sam, I'll have you know, I don't know what you're talking about. What is a Tuska? What did you say? Tuska what now? Maybe that experiment was woke and gay, and I'm glad that they actually deleted it. Oh, that's awesome.
But at the end of the day, if a person...
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed, right?
Just listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality.
Wait, what? What is this argument, man? No, just stick to... Don't come up with your own argument. Just stick to the basic conservative arguments, dog. No, you are entirely too stupid. You are entirely too dumb to come up with your own arguments. Also, someone is in here talking to me about Tuskegee Airmen. Yeah, I know, dude. I was making a joke. Okay, I know what the Tuskegee Airmen experiments were. What the fuck is wrong with you? I can't even joke about shit in this chat. People will be like, "Oh, well, actually, I'll have you know if you didn't know."
Person truly wanted to hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts for the end of the year. When you create your tax returns, they give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private
in government
businesses.
Agencies, they don't get tax cuts for hiring people
and
of
the
color.
Other thing I wanted
this is
to,
to
and
protect
the other
people
thing
from discrimination.
The other thing I want to kind of state here is that
I love giving tax breaks to the Department of Education for hiring DEI candidates. Yeah, famously, this is how things work. We're giving tax breaks. We're giving tax breaks to the FDA.
That I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino.
What do you mean you guys, bro? You're a liberal. Like, stop. What do you mean you guys when referring to liberals? You will never convince me that this guy is not secretly a liberal, okay? What the hell is going on?
Or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on...
DEIA does not... is not.
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color,
no,
physical
it
attributes.
Says that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
Against people who may have different cultural mores, may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should be based on merit. And that is the emphasis
People
here.
get hired as a merit, but if the DEIA, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of these orders on these agencies.
If you received a tax cut as an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
if you could pay them less?
Listen, we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. They don't. Government agencies.
They don't.
No.
No.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every
parts
private...
Dog. No. Why is he so smug, dude? This is what I mean. It's like, he's like, they do actually.
And public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies operate are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think
that is not. Government agencies are funded by taxes. They don't get tax breaks. To which he responded with, "That's not true." What is truth then? Look at Sam's face. At this moment, he was like, "Okay, dude, this is so much worse than having like libertarian callers call in because, god damn, dude, literacy rates have dropped." How can you argue with a person that just is wrong about everything? Like basic, fundamental shit, you know what I mean? Like, how do you argue with a guy like that? How do we fix this shit? Unironically, education, funding education, okay? I would say re-education, but honestly, there is no re-education here because there has been no education prior. So just education. Open the schools. Abolish homeschooling. Bro, what do you mean how? You do this daily? I know. I think I have a much higher barrier where I do entertain a lot dumber statements because I argue with like anonymous people. But even if I were to meet someone in the real world who, you know, said things like this, I probably would have lost it way before Sam.
The whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say, if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every
I like that.
part
I love
of
me a
society.
buzzword. You must do your best effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay, pause.
Bro, oh my God, he's so stupid and so condescending. He's so stupid and condescending. That's a buzzword. What do you mean? No, he's just describing what DEI is. A really good way to put it is, and Sam kind of talked about this as well, but this is something I've mentioned before. DEI throughout American history has only existed for one group of people. If DEI in the way that Republicans understand it, which is elevating people who do not deserve that position to a position of power and actively undermining qualified individuals for that role, if that is what DEI means, which is not what it is anyway, it has only existed for one group of people in this country throughout history. And ironically, DEI seeks to address that. And that is white men. Okay? That is DEI in the way that Republicans talk about it. There was a time not that long ago when even white women were not elevated to positions of prominence, to positions that they were worthy of. Okay? There is, for a very long time in this country, obviously, black men and non-white men as well were not elevated into positions of power. There are still remnants of this kind of disproportionate way of elevating people into positions of power that still exists in modern capitalism as well. That is what DEI initiatives are supposed to address. It is not about creating a liberal quota system where like a certain percentage has to be a black or something like that. DEI initiatives are supposed to say, okay, the goal of DEI initiatives are to simply, one, offer additional background, like background education, like affirmative action and whatnot. It's supposed to address some of the systemic discrimination and the systemic imbalance that exists for educational outcomes for white people versus non-white people. All right. But also beyond that, DEI initiatives are supposed to force both government agencies and also everybody else to not overlook black people, okay? Not overlook brown people, black people, women, trans people on the virtue of their background. And considering that there has, throughout American history, been a DEI initiative for white men, it's an understandable means of addressing the existing remnants of said discriminatory hiring practices. That's it. And it's not just black, brown people either. It's veterans as well, disabled people as well. Anyway, let's continue.
You feel like you have to, you're pressured to.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get
All
tax
right.
cuts.
All right, return to
At
your
the
seat.
end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone.
Dude, I don't know how he doesn't understand that like federal government agencies don't pay taxes. They are funded by taxes. They don't get tax breaks because they don't pay taxes. Why would they pay? How? This is like, I feel like a fourth grader understands that, right? I mean, am I crazy? Like, don't Americans have like civics class or some shit? I don't know. I didn't go to school here, but what the f*** is going on?
Someone who speaks
Please
a different
return to your
language or
seat.
different skin color.
I don't know how to respond to that.
So this entire group of people thought he cooked there? Like, is that they're like laughing because they're like, haha, yeah, you're right. He got you because as a matter of fact, the FDA does get tax breaks. Like, is that what they're thinking?
How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification because I don't even know if we got it yet on which part benefits corporations, like from your perspective.
So agencies, the U.S. government agencies, the vast majority of them, what they function to do is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of deposited, because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it. I'm going to
dump it in the water.
Dump it into a river. And the EPA's...
Man, if only... what Sam is describing here is surely a hypothetical, right? Corporations would never really do that in the real world and dump poisonous forever chemicals in the water supply and directly destroy wildlife in certain areas, right? That are downriver. I mean, surely that could not be a real thing.
Comes in and says, you can't do that. We're going to fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're going to take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river. And those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river. They're going to get cancer. They're going to get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is. And society bears the cost of that.
Can you connect the dots for me, though? Because it sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
No. And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of Russell Votes thing, the OMB, the whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people.
The American government works at the behest of corporations in perpetuity with some limitations. The federal regulatory agencies try to do their very best. There's still obviously a lot of stuff that happens that undermine the regulatory agencies, like the revolving door between agency versus public sector jobs versus private sector jobs. And having said all of that, Sam is correct. In both principle and in theory, the regulatory agency's entire job is to ensure that private corporations do not actually create harm for broader society, right? That is their job. Their job is to make sure the society does not bear the brunt of the cost of doing business. Be careful, bro. Chevron is a Twitch sponsor. Yeah, okay. I don't give a shit. Suck my dick, Chevron. So Sam's argument is that the Trump administration, working directly with the private sector, is actively trying to undermine the regulatory agencies that have already been crippled in perpetuity, but basically killed them dead, so that there is no administrative state, there are no regulatory agencies whatsoever, so that corporations can dump toxic pollutants without fear of any repercussion or the marginal fines, penalties that they might actually pay, right? That's it.
Don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree, if this is about demoralizing, I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEIA is, according to your definition of it?
I love this argument. Well, 75 million Americans are stupid. So what do you have to say to that? I don't know, that they're stupid and they voted against their best interest. This is common. This is a thing that happens all the time,
Well,
the
government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies and the military and other organizations, not just the military.
Please return to your seat.
Okay.
Hey, before we go any further, we have the news straight from
mistake. My next claim is, unless you're a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
Oh, this is another great bars from Samuel here, okay? Bars. Presented it perfectly.
Okay, so let's tackle one aspect, religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also, can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
And maybe you could say,
I mean, bro, you subbed out last time. Why are you, I mean, come on. You really want the smoke again? You want the 2-time? You want back-to-back? That's crazy. That's crazy. You can't say, all right, I'm tapping out last time around and then come back hot.
Say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance. But things like, the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose, The idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education, we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
Like, what do you think you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of
dog? Ain't no way. Okay, they filmed this I think they filmed this before Donald Trump became president. To be fair, this might have been filmed pre-inauguration or right as the inauguration happened. I'm fairly certain because Sam was in LA and we couldn't link up because I was in Japan. So obviously, if you had any understanding of what Trump was saying he was going to do, just even like tariffs, right? Or I'm going to deport 20 million undocumented migrants, for example. He hasn't done so, but the claim that he was going to do so, you could have recognized that there was going to be a devastating impact on the American economy if you had more than 3 brain cells to rub together, okay? Having said that, it's hilarious that the video came out not in January, but on March 9th, and we know that you haven't gotten the economic relief. You have not gotten the economic relief at all. Ah! Amazing. You could have seen it. You could have foreseen that there was not going to be economic relief, for the record.
Economic relief. They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut. When they go after the agencies,
he's like, no, they're not going to cut Social Security. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
They're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up
I'm relieving myself of all my savings. Yeah, that's a form of relief, you know?
When you cut agencies and go after them and you fire all the inspector generals so that they're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working, who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist to curb corporations from externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits. So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by society in the form of like people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of like we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
It's good.
He was doing too much listening.
Hey. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
Okay, here's the problem. If you don't have a established consensus truth, you know, things that are happening in the real world, if you don't have a established consensus on this, then a big part of this quote unquote debate is going to be Sam Seder describing basic functions of the government to increasingly dumber people. Okay? And in terms that like a juvenile can understand, because like clearly the people across from him are operating with like a 14-year-old's understanding of the world. And not even like a particularly smart 14-year-old, but a 14-year-old that's just like watched too many TikTok videos. This guy's about to blow your mind? Okay.
Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem.
What's wrong with religious fundamentalists? What the hell? Does this guy think the only religious fundamentalists are like evangelical Christians or something? Which, by the way, there is much wrong with that as well. But I suspect that he doesn't understand what that word means. You know? Like...
I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the...
Sam should have just been like, bro, what do you think about ISIS? Do you like ISIS? And he's going to say, no, obviously not. I'd be like, okay, so you don't like religious fundamentalists. And then if he says, oh, but I like evangelical Christians, you'd be like, okay, well, they're religious fundamentalists. The only thing holding back the religious fundamentalist movement from doing ISIS-style shit is, you know, the established material conditions in the United States of America that stop them because they all die of heart disease before they can go and do ISIS style shit. Okay, I'm joking on that front, but like, I'm not joking when I say if conditions were ripe for revolution or barbarism in the United States of America, if the United States of America resembled like a crippled failed state that was invaded by a much larger superpower that completely destroyed it, then yes, our religious fundamentalists would be doing ISIS shit as well. Right now, they just go and protest outside of Planned Parenthood and then go get $5 jalapeno poppers and call it a day. The moment that they can't get those $5 jalapeno poppers, oh, all hell will break loose. Trust me.
The rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. We have.
Oh my God, this is a TikTok debate guy, 100%. Here we go, dude. We're doing. You know how back in the day there was an era of like pop psychology, and that never really went away. But now there's an era of pop philosophy, which I think is even worse than pop psychology. It's people. This is 100% one of those like TikTok debate guys, okay? All they do is not really understand dense literature surrounding philosophy and just like kind of abide by like the memified versions of it. And that's it. That's like they just operate on like false understandings, false philosophical understandings and try to argue simply on the basis of their false interpretation. Charlie Kirk tweeted about how this guy destroyed Sam.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, well, let's see how Sam gets destroyed
have
here.
Laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean it would be
morally right under your view.
Not morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off of.
I believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy.
Wait, I don't understand. So, like, does he think that if unshackled and unrestricted by religious boundaries, we would just be doing butt sex? Like, I don't get it. Like, taken to its logical conclusion, there is no logic behind assuming that devoid of religion, we would literally just only have gay sex. Unless in your mind, you're constantly thinking about just dicking down a dude. You know what I mean? You're just constantly, and the only thing that's holding you back from entertaining the active sweet butt is the fact that you're going to go to hell. And that's the reason. That's why you're holding back, you know? what a strange way to address the importance of religion in civilized society, to be like, without religion, everyone would be gay. Nah, I think that's just a self-report, big dog, you know? Like, I don't think Sam is particularly religious. Sam is a straight man, you know?
The straight couple, religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so...
Okay, why are debate lords so bad at debating is a question that always comes to mind. Pedophilia, regardless of the way that you're born, cannot be compared to homosexuality. The reason why you can't compare pedophilia to homosexuality is because if a pedophile acts on their urges, okay, they create harm. If a homosexual man, such as this guy maybe, acts on his urges to consensually have sex with another consenting homosexual adult, for example, you're not harming anyone at all. As a matter of fact, harm would only be caused if you are forced to repress your homosexual tendencies and desires, as is evidenced by the fact that you are making a horrible argument comparing pedophilia to homosexuality. I don't understand why people spend hours and hours and hours on TikTok debating back and forth, and they're still so unimaginably bad at arguing. How is this possible? I hate to debate. I'm not particularly great at debating, something that I voluntarily reveal about myself all the time. And yet, seemingly, for a lot of these guys, I feel like I cooked them, you know? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It really, that's why so many of Divorcelli, or Epstein, rather, with his new name, when his fans come in here and they try to do a watered down version of his arguments, they fail spectacularly because there's not really a good argument there. And people who love debating or watching debates don't necessarily have the same rhetorical skills.
So should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided...
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than...
Okay, so you're okay with a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well? Incest?
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about freedom and exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine on me, and I don't want that.
You just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view,
the other side of a debate lord is that they always have to bring up incest after they brought up pedophilia. Classic. Debate me on the virtues of incest. Debate me. Please don't fall into the trap, okay, chatters. Every now and then, maybe you watch a debate, okay, and you're like, damn, this guy's cooking, okay? If that's your whole content, you're inevitably going to talk about CP, pedophilia, and incest, and you're going to be debating those issues. When all other debates have run dry, you got to hit those. You got to hit those untapped veins. That's what happens every time. Now, of course, for Sam, he drops that bomb in there because he wants to shake the confidence of his interlocutor by touching a subject that most people don't want to talk about or even think about. Problem is, Sam is an experienced political commentator and has a very calm disposition. So I don't think he's going to eat that bait and come across like befuddled by this rhetorical flashbang grenade that this dipshit dropped in the conversation. A conversation that's supposed to be about billionaire religious fundamentalists and xenophobic nationalists that only benefit from Trump's election, and that everyone else that doesn't fit into either of those categories actually loses from Trump being president.
The liberal view doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
Also, religion does make you feel good. That's kind of the whole point. You abide by a certain set of standards that you dogmatically associate with like the appropriate moral code, many of it is like misunderstood and misinterpreted, but that's besides the point. And it makes you feel good to follow those rules. Like, that's it. You just need a guiding principle because personally, I guess you're afraid of your urges, your own personal urges that many other people don't have, like, you know, inoffensive urges like wanting to have gay sex, or maybe really scary urges like wanting to do pedophilia. I'm just saying, if religion is the only thing that's stopping you from engaging in pedophilic acts, then you probably should get institutionalized, you know?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
You have no
your
contention.
religion to? Well, because the other, first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, you know, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of Christian.
and female. You're right.
You have a
You
Christian
won.
nationalist,
Yes.
and
Which is necessary.
Yeah, this guy's a loser, bro. Whole ass loser. He's like, yeah, I want only male and female. Like, as though you think, just for the record, even though Donald Trump is obviously giving red meat to these dipshits, they will still experience the material consequences of the Trump's devastating agenda of austerity. Okay, just make no mistake. He just thinks right now in the interim that they're winning. Okay, that's it. That's it. Oh yeah, only two genders, men and women, male and female. We won. It's like, no, bitch, your egg prices are still high as. Okay, look at the stock market, dipshit. You are not BlackRock, okay? You are not a CEO overseeing dumping toxic pollutants in the natural water supply, okay? You're not going to see the benefits. You're only going to see the harms. But yeah, you'll just go male and female, two genders, all the way into your demise, okay? You'll feel like things are good because Trump gave you that red meat because you're a dumb.
So I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage under this.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids, less abortions. Oh my God. Yeah, it's sick, man. Hey, good luck paying for your childcare, by the way, dumbass. First of all, you are not having more kids. Who is this man? Please. Ain't no way Big Dog is getting laid, all right? That's number one. You don't have to worry about these things. These things don't concern you, okay? You are not getting pussy.
More family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better education.
People, gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit to the husbands.
Women
that doesn't mean they are slaves.
Right,
it doesn't mean they are slaves. It means they are protected. Okay, let me ask you then. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
if they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
Yes.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist.
It's funny though, because like he seems to be at least like he seems to have like a definable worldview that in his own twisted moral confines like makes sense. But the problem is other people are listening to this. This is not just the intellectual trappings of your own scary mind. You are revealing the insanely cruel worldview that you have. So in some ways, I respect conservatives for the brutal honesty, but in other, but also I can't help but notice that like when you are an intellectually honest conservative, most people are going to look to what you're saying and go, oh my God, You are a monster. So I think Lil Bro forgot why conservatives use dog whistles. I think he forgot why conservatives try to frame their agenda from the perspective that is more appropriate for liberals, like the permissible boundaries of liberalism. Conservatives don't say, we want to do forced impregnations and we want to force women to carry pregnancies to term, regardless of whether or not there is harm to the carrier in the process, because we don't want women to be able to choose what they do with their own bodies. They say abortion is murder. We're actually saving the baby. That's marketing. And there's a good reason for that marketing, because a lot of dumbasses in the edges respond to that marketing and go, well, okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, a baby is a life. Like, they should preserve the life of the baby. I care about the sanctity of humanity, whatever, right? This guy dropped all of that and was like, no, women should be subservient and servile to their male partners. It doesn't mean it's slavery, but they should be subservient. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that attitude, big dog. You know, I don't think you're going to win a lot of people over here.
This prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like, if you look at it.
I do love this because he just accidentally agreed with the underlying premise that Sam Seder made here, which is, unless you're a billionaire religious fundamentalist or xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake. And he basically came up and said, yes, I'm a religious fundamentalist, and I love that Donald Trump is doing religious fundamentalism. So technically, Sam is correct. And also simultaneously, he has revealed the devastating agenda of Trump. So congratulations to this TikTok dipshit.
A country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's, you know, good for them if they want it.
My final point is, whenever
I don't want to live in a theocracy.
My final point is, whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right,
I think you are at home in the Trump. Trump.
Thank you very much.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Oh, he's back.
I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's how a democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion, is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology like all ideologies are. It's you vote away.
I don't mind you. I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be, but others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like having a theocracy is something different than having.
I think love thy neighbor is a good precept, and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept. I think there are things from religion that are good. I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be is like a knife. It can be used to spread butter, or it could be used to stab people. But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be.
I want Sam to ask him who this person thinks Desmond Tutu is.
the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy,
Sure.
and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of like religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's my sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't, at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he has a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any ideology is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine.
Right.
I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy and civil society.
Well, and I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way that you.
Well, I mean, look, we can have a debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to men. I don't think they should be, and in a democracy, I don't.
How do these guys look back at like thousands of years of religious history and unironically look at like the most secular era that we live in, at least since like the invention of Christianity, and go, we got to go back to we got to go back to the old ways, you know? Whoever said this is Timu Nandre, f you. It's Nandre with a wig. You can't fool us. You can't fool us. You thought, oh, I'm slick, bro. I put the wig on and no one will notice that it's me. Lud's the bald asshole now. Yeah. You know what I like to think of when I like to think of religious democracy? The Inquisition. Like how wonderfully democratic that process was, you know? Great stuff overall across the board. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Let's go back to that. They would melt you, dog, for looking this gay, okay?
I don't think it's healthy.
Right, but when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is, religious truth and what isn't religious truth, that's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either, right?
I don't know, when Pete Hegseth is in
famously, religion always is open to interpretation, and that slight deviations never lead to horrifying acts of violence that span across centuries, okay? Famously, religion is super chill about having slight deviations, and it's always open to interpretation. Everybody always agrees to disagree. That's insane, dude. Oh, that's awesome. There's no way this person has not done like theology 101. You know what I mean? Like there's 0% chance he knows anything about history. Oh my God.
Bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
But now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the world. I think, and he's informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but
we can disagree on that.
Yeah, we don't take.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks, Sam.
Return to your seat.
Oh my God. Why is it the same losers that keep winning, dude? Yo! That's crazy. Luther's 99 Thesis were seen by the church as a suggestion box submission famously. Yeah. No, of course. When I think of like religious dogmas and the history of all religions, okay, but especially Christianity, I always think of no repression, no persecution, and only wonderful, bountiful democracy, endless democracy, as a matter of fact. That's what I think of. Because I'm stupid. Because I'm a stupid person.
Okay, so Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to...
Bro, in a long time scale, let's say a quadrillion years when humanity's gone and it's as if we never existed. What does it matter if someone did X or didn't do Y? What would differentiate a saint from a murderer then? Don't you think there has to be an ultimate arbiter of morality beyond the harm principle for our actions to have ultimate consequence? I just don't think that our actions have ultimate consequence. Like what? You're just operating on the assumption that it does, while simultaneously talking about the meaninglessness of all of our individual actions in general. We live within the limited time frame of the human lifespan. So I say it's up to you to make it as good for other people as possible, and in the process make it as good for yourself as possible, you know? Like, I just don't believe that there is some ultimate arbiter of morality in general. Like, why does there... I think it's inherently selfish, narcissistic for humans to assume that our lives are meaningful and consequential in the grand scheme of things. And I just don't agree with that at all, beyond the confines of the human lifespan. It is utterly meaningless, which you also come to that recognition by expanding on history and just like removing ourselves from the equation and saying, like, for a quadrillion years after mankind has existed and has ceased to exist,
who prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years. Okay. Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public. Kissing in public. No law against it. Just your own opinion. Okay. So these are all people's opinions, right? The same way you have your opinions about Christians is the same way these people are allowed.
No, I don't have a problem with Christians.
Well, you do not believe that theology should be at its
We should not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is,
wait, most Christians don't want to have a theocracy. What the does this guy unironically think that, like, in 2025, the overwhelming majority of self-identifying Christians are like, we wish we could go back to, like, I wish we could go back to like a world that is guided exclusively by church. He thinks Sam wants the big gay in charge.
I think that Christianity, I'm a Catholic. I think that Christianity
bro, reassign all his intelligence points to speed. True.
Is, I think, fundamentally very important to instill family values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about...
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on. What you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face. And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at such a young age. 50% of children...
Do you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years? Let's say, I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I do, but I'm curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers are.
I promise to tell you after you tell me what you think it is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
we're not playing this game.
No, I am.
It's not a game. You have, again, and I'm going to repeat myself here, you have a firmly held conviction, okay? This is something that you care about. This is why I would always ask people like, what's his name, Christian Walker, or any number of different, like, trans people are ruining sports, people that make that argument. I would ask them, like, who got second place in the high school swim meet? Who got third place in the high school swim meet? It is a debate tactic, to be fair, okay? But the reason why I would ask that is because, like, obviously you don't give a shit. This is not something that you truly care about. If you did, like, if you had a genuine interest in, like, women's swim meets or whatever, you would know the answer to that question. And the same goes for people that make these arguments where they're like, No, you don't understand. Like thousands of not even thousands. He didn't give a number, but like everybody's getting hormone blockers, and everyone is having this kind of invasive surgery at a very young age is totally unacceptable. The reason why it's important to ask people, like, how many people do you think this is happening to, is because they don't know. They don't know. If they knew the answer, they would recognize how laughable of a position this is.
I'm playing this game because I think you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers.
Unless he's talking about circumcision, in which case the numbers in the millions. Okay, hey, listen, shouts out to my circed up boys. Okay, they took something from us. And we'll never be able to return. I'm an intactivist, as you guys know. And as an intactivist, I have a poster that says return with a V on it. But instead, it's actually not about like white Christian nationalism. It's actually return my penis skin. That's what I would want. I want my hoodie back. Circed up boys. Hands off my penis.
Numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically, every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal because of it.
Studies on the subject often suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors, including inadequate follow-up, imprecise measurement, poorly chosen sample bases. Doctors agree more research is needed. Wait, what? That's the fact check? That's a terrible fact check, dog. He just straight up lied. Why would you... I don't even think that there is a single study that says that. As far as like surgery regret goes, surgery regret is really high for procedures that are absolutely necessary for survival. Okay, we're talking hip replacements. Even that has a higher surgery regret percentage than any sort of like HRT, any sort of like gender confirmation surgery. Okay. Gender confirmation surgery regret percentages are unimaginably low, like insanely low, much lower than any other kind of invasive procedure. Okay? And considering the incredibly low number of like surgeries that trans people get to begin with, you have to understand that this is like 8 total people. You just hear about it a lot more because New York Times will write articles about it endlessly. That's it. Hassan's HRT dealer, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Subscribe, chat, for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. That's right. You will never have any regret. You will have even lower levels of regret than the already existing incredibly low levels of regret that people experience after getting some sort of gender affirming surgery. Well, specifically surgeries involving trans people. If you subscribe, that's right. Subscribing will allow you to support the stream, but also simultaneously give you access to incredible emotes that you can use all around the platform and the opportunity to send me links. Study from the National Institute of Health analyzing multiple studies showing that the number is less than 1%. Regret after gender affirmation surgery, a systematic review and meta-analysis of prevalence. Here it is. Evan Devs, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. For the chatters asking for proof, a total of 27 studies pooling 7,928 transgender patients who underwent any type of GAS were included. The pooled prevalence of regret after GAS was 1%. That fact check is wrong. Minors don't have surgeries. Yeah, that's true. Well, no, minors do have surgeries. Minors have gender-affirming surgeries as well, like rhinoplasties or breast reduction surgeries or breast enhancement surgeries, as a matter of fact. That is infinitely more common. That is infinitely more common than minors getting any sort of trans medical care, as a matter of fact. So the idea that minors don't get any sort of gender-affirming surgeries is wrong. It's just overwhelmingly cis minors that end up getting said surgeries. No minors get SRS, none. Oh, you mean yeah, as far as medical intervention, like a bottom surgery or top surgery for trans minors, it is I think either non-existent, depending on what year you're looking at, or incredibly, incredibly low, and done only because it's like a last resort. It is seen as a last resort. Medical intervention that is not reversible is not often done to trans minors. It's not done to trans minors at all. It's like very, 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 very few instances, and only seen as a complete last resort. Yeah, knee replacement surgery is a 30% regret rate. Gender affirmation has like a 0.3%. Exactly. What? No one under the age of 25 should get gender affirming surgery? That's a crazy take, dude. Like, not even once you're legally seen as an adult can you get gender affirming surgery. You can only do it at 25. Like, that's so stupid. Bro, if you're trans, you don't magically become trans at 25. You're just trans, okay? This is what's so crazy about this argument. This is what's so crazy and so stupid about the conversation surrounding trans people. Like, trans people don't materialize after paying taxes for a couple years, okay? They don't just like magically become trans after they worked at McDonald's. They were just trans always, okay? This is what's so annoying about having back and forths about this conversation instead of just like letting the medical community find through research what the best possible ways of going about this is. I hate it. Keep that energy with hair plugs. Okay, chill. Calm down now. Bro, I thought you were a foe. Make no mistake, I am a foe. I am a foe of the LGBTQ community, okay? This guy's coming after the one remaining medical tourism sector in my home country, okay? I take great offense to this, sir. How else will Turkish hairlines make money? How else will industrious Turkish entrepreneurs, doctors, how else will they be able to make money? You are tanking an economy that has experienced hyperinflation for the past decade or so. You're trying to bring Turkey down even further. I will not let it slide. We are the table. We're not just at the table. We are the table. All right, let's continue.
They're actually more depressed because of it.
How many of those kids? How many?
A psychologist,
by the way. How many over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me.
Tell me.
Just give me
I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to put me in this chokehold of like,
no, I'm not trying to put you in a choke. No, this is definitely an I got you moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than it is.
It is a huge problem.
I was one of the 530 trans minors around the age of 15 plus to get top surgery in the year 2018 in the entire United States. There are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of us in the U.S. I needed over 3 years of maintained diagnosis and 4 referrals from doctors and psychiatrics. Bottom surgery does not happen until 18. Yeah. Now think about the interesting part about this, right? By the way, shouts out to Catboy Collector. The interesting part about this also is that there are definitely more than tens of thousands of people that do get top surgery as minors in the United States of America, except that is seen as gender affirming surgery that is appropriate. Why? Because it's cis minors that get it. That's the difference. It only becomes an issue. It only becomes a real issue when it's actually trans minors. Okay. That was the point that I was making. It's like an incredibly, incredibly low number. Let's continue.
Medi-Cal, you know, Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know one person has had that.
Bro, can you explain how people regret surgeries like knee replacements, like you said? I mean, I can give you an example of this. I have a little bit of regret myself from my knee surgery. I had a laparoscopic surgery, which was like not super invasive, right? But in the process, like my knee never fully healed. Some people have chronic pain, you know? I don't fully have regret over it because obviously the alternative I understand was far more damaging, which is like having a piece of cartilage just like flowing around in my knee freely, inevitably getting stuck under my kneecap and then causing permanent repair, a permanent state of disrepair, sorry. But like I had to get it done, but yeah, it didn't, I still can't dunk. And it hurt for a long time. I never actually got back to the same level of strength that I had in my legs since that surgery, and it's been years and years at this point. You know, there are plenty of instances where people regret surgeries, and it's significantly worse than my situation, which is why I don't even like bring it up that much. I'm 26 and I had to get multiple letters from multiple doctors and mental health professionals to get gender affirming surgery. It is insane. They think minors are just getting it on a random Tuesday just because. Yeah, that's the other side of this, that like conservatives are not known for critical thinking in general, but this is an area where they certainly demonstrate their lack of any sort of logic, right? Where they think that you can just like get HRT over the counter. You just walk up and you're like, I'm trans now. Give me some estrogen or testosterone. I wish it was that simple, by the way, because I'd be getting that tea, all right? I'd be spiking myself with Anavar on a daily fucking basis if that was the case. Probably would be a little damaging to public health overall. They think that there is no like mental health professionals checking every step of the process. That's number one. Number two, they do this with everything, okay? It's the same principle behind claiming falsely that Gavin Newsom has let 75,000 rapists roam the streets. Why are they saying that? Because Gavin Newsom said we need to lower the number of prisoners in the California state penitentiaries because there is a real crisis of overcrowding in California state penitentiaries. That process is infinitely more complicated than the way people think it is. You don't just like walk up to the worst rapist you know, okay, who's like an Olympic level rapist. Like he just raped for fun, but also as though it was his own profession. And you're like, well, Gavin Newsom said you can get out now. And he's like, oh my God, I've only been in prison for 1 year so far in my, you know, triple life sentence. Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to go out and do rapes again. That's what conservatives think is going on. It's like, no, there's a parole board. Like you have to go in front of an entire group of judges who will look at whether or not you have demonstrated good behavior, if you've actually served the majority of your sentence, okay? And then they commuted, especially after you've demonstrated good behavior in general, like that you don't have a capacity to reoffend. Like it's not that simple of a process, but in the mind of a conservative, it is that simple. And then because of how stupid we are as a society, we have to entertain the conservative stupidity. Their lack of imagination and their lack of critical thinking skills all of a sudden becomes all of our problems.
That surgery.
I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner who wants to transition.
Well, I think because we got to do health care for prisoners, and you don't consider it real health care. But
Gavin
hold on, I don't
Newsom
want
has
to get
imposed
listen,
$2.6 billion
it's
in
900 kids
2022.
over 5 years.
That is a lot of children.
Puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over 5 years.
547 just
Do you know
passed,
how many,
including
do you know
gender
how many kids
identity,
died during COVID?
gender identity, to allow children to be separated from their parents just due to not affirming their gender identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump how is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated?
Are you for trans people being discriminated?
They're just not being discriminated. Oh, okay. My bad. Okay. That's cool. Well, I guess we should wrap this up, you know? No, they're not being discriminated. Oh, well. It's just like you operate with the level of thinking of a child. Like you have a child's brain. What the do you mean they're not being discriminated? What an insane thing to say to begin with, but also what is happening? Like you're like, no, it's not happening. Okay, I guess we should move on to a different point then.
I'm very passionate about that question, and can I answer it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so he's passionate, so he knows better.
I believe that affirmative action should be.
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. That's not saying that you have to hire trans people. It's saying you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge and their work ethic, not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
not based
action.
On their sexual
Are
orientation.
you allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need to, then you should. If you need to, then you should.
So we have a disagreement.
Right,
I don't believe people should be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not.
Wait, what do you mean? If you need to, you should. Like you have a competent employee, you like the employee is doing decent output. You find out that the employee is actually trans. You fire them because they're trans. What do you mean? If you need to, you should. Some needs are not valid, and in the past were considered illegal. And the reason for why this was a restriction enforced by the federal government was because people were doing it. Okay? And you're also in the process of arguing that they should be able to do it. What is happening?
Not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with. Just saying.
They're clapping for that? Oh my God. Bro, they don't understand. They don't understand anything. What the is going on? I would lose my mind if I was in a room like this. I genuinely, like, this goes back to the point I make all the time. If everyone is stupid and you're the only smart one, then, you know, you're stupid and they're smart. That's just how it works, okay? In a society in a society of blind men, the one-eyed leads everyone is wrong, okay? In a society full of blind men, the one-eyed person is cast aside and ostracized, as their vision is now no longer a benefit. It is actually a point of discrimination, because everyone's like, F you. What do you mean you can see? Get the out of here. They'll kill you. You're a witch. It's awesome.
Hi.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now is just a...
Okay, I'm sorry. We will misogyny alert, okay? Hypothetical misogyny alert. I'm not saying that this is my worldview, but in this process, I'd be like, all right, get the back to your seat. Get the back to your seat right now. I don't want to hear from you. What do you mean? Get the back to your seat. Women should be seen and not heard. Like, what are you talking about? Religious Christian nationalism would be the good order. Why are you here frolicking about? Why are you here and not barefoot and pregnant in your home in the kitchen serving your man? Why are you talking to me? Why are you talking to cameras? Are you a witch? Are you a witch? What is this? Yeah, shoulders uncovered, frolicking about like a harlot? What is this? What do you mean you want Christian nationalism? What are you talking about? The is this? What is this?
Congratulations.
Yeah, and thank you. And yeah.
No. Oh my God. I can't say. Oh my, what is that, bro? Why are they letting the Amish into this room? What the is happening with Jedediah in the back? Like, hell yeah. Dog, you came here on a horse carriage. What are you doing? What are you celebrating?
I think what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation.
Bro is spending Rumspringa on Jubilee, okay? You could be doing ketamine right now, okay, with strippers, and you're out here spending Rumspringa at Jubilee in front of cameras.
Ever, we have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a...
Are you reproducing? All you're doing is reproducing dumbass talking points. What are you reproducing? I don't see you reproduce. Are you pregnant right now? Why are you talking?
We mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
You want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so, like, sure.
All right. I mean, this I think, though, reinforces my point that if...
Nah. You don't believe it. You don't believe in the things that you're saying. Or it's the second thing, which is even funnier. You're too stupid to recognize that you are actively spelling out your own demise. Like, you want society to be organized in a way that actively harms you. Okay? The f do you mean? Oh, I don't believe in divorce. What do you mean you don't believe in divorce? She's like, yeah, I would rather murder my husband secretly by poisoning him with Visine, by putting Visine in the soup, slowly but surely, just drip feeding it day in, day out after he beats my ass every night until he finally coughs blood and dies in his bedroom. This is my alternative vision for divorce. Insanity.
If you are
But it would be better for society. It would be better for everybody in society. And same with Z.
That's my argument, by the way. Like, yeah, back in the day, women couldn't get divorces. So they just killed their husbands, dude. Technically, divorce is not just good for women. It's good for the men, too. People just don't understand that, though. You know, we can't even have that conversation. It's for male preservation. I promise you. Okay. Or she's have the guy she was having an affair with. What? Yeah, by the way, they're not even arguing his claim. They're just straight up arguing that his claim is correct and that Christian nationalism is good, which technically, I think Sam foolishly thought there would be people that go, oh, no, I mean, Christian nationalism, I mean, xenophobic nationalism, Christian fundamentalism, these are bad things. Like, I personally didn't think that every Zoomer that was going to run up to the mic was going to be like, nah, shit, that shit's dope, dude. I love religious fundamentalism. That shit is poggers. It's sick. I'm so skibbity. I'm so phantom tax on Christian nationalism. You have no idea. Like, I don't even think he was baiting. I think he wanted to entertain a good conversation amongst people who don't fit any of these categories, because he thought that the average Republican Zoomer that wants to go on a Jubilee video was probably going to have some semblance of normalcy, some interest in at least maintaining decency, and that they wouldn't have said those things, they'd be defensive, and then Sam could just like cook them up. I didn't think that every single person that comes up was going to be like, actually, the three things that you mentioned are awesome, and that's why I voted for Donald Trump, and you're totally right about your premise.
Xenophobic like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
Stop!
Like
There used to be some decency in people that came out. They would shelter their actual harmful opinions. They wouldn't just say it out loud. What the f is going on? Zoomers are worse than the generation prior. This is crazy. You should know better than to be like, no, conservatism to me is about being a Nazi. Okay? What the hell? This is insane. She said, what's the problem with being a xenophobic nationalist, dude? To a Jewish man, nonetheless, but holy
Phobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is
based
the dominant
on European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
White Christian,
it's rooted in European identity.
White. So your argument is that
has been the dominant culture.
Just to be.
This is also such a funny thing to say for like Americans, especially. Ask the average European person how they feel about American culture, okay? Like, I doubt that they're like, oh yeah, those Americans, they're just like us. Hundreds of years of history and culture versus Amerifat dipshit eating burger. Yeah, just like me. Amazing.
And we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America...
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, you know, for better or for worse, a melting pot.
Yeah, it's an amalgamation of all of the other, ironically enough, countries that America dominated that then bring those people over here. And actually, that amalgamation is one of the best aspects of America, if not the only good thing about America in general. She's not wrong. America has been very racist historically, Law. I know, but the inverse of that, the other side of that, is also the fact that, you know, not having a singular focus on, I guess, like defining and maintaining some kind of like European colonial mindset has caused, or rather, as a consequence of maintaining some semblance of white supremacist European colonial mindset, America has become an amalgamation of all these different cultures. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Part of the reason why America is also not run into the same generational trappings of other more xenophobic nations is directly a consequence of waves of migration. That's it. No, lib speak. It's not lib speak. There's obviously the bad, but there is a silver lining to this as well. It's true. The Daily Wire does not disappoint. I'm impressed how aggressively these guys from Daily Wire are owning white nationalism and theocracy. Yeah, I don't know if this is a good thing that people are just like openly taking ownership over direct white supremacist Nazi statements. This is a bad take. While religion offers some good rules to live by, it also led to some of the bloodiest conflicts that should not be 100% followed as modern law. 100 million people were murdered in the last century under the banner of atheism. Black Book of Communism.
In that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, like even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and
mean
now
that
instead we're saying there's something wrong with
dominant
xenophobia.
Culture. No. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. Like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this.
Wait, she works for rapist Elijah Schaffer, who literally raped so much that he had to be fired from a right-wing news outlet? That's who she works for? Girl, you are in danger. That's crazy. I guess you got to be that crazy, though.
It's a choice. And people, I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's like anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Like Trump's basically a Democrat from like 15 years ago when it comes to social issues.
So you don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying he's not even in this. Okay.
My next claim is...
Bro, she dropped H-1Bs as a pejorative, like just in and of itself. She said H-1Bs. They're dumping a bunch of H-1Bs, man. Yo, Zoomers are broken, dude. They are literally doing the thing. What is this? Oh, they're just posting this and going like, we won? Like they're saying, you know, I said a bunch of racist shit and therefore I won. Like what? Town I grew up in Canada was 95% white. Anyone who wasn't white was culturally assimilated. Now they turned a church in my neighborhood into a mosque. And when you go to the park, they're famous with 50 beers to their toes, chattering in a language I can't understand. I don't think there's anything wrong with me feeling uncomfortable about this. It's not that I hate anyone. It's that my hometown feels like a foreign country. And I know that I will never go back to how it was. It makes me sad. I hope they build more mosques in our town, honestly. I don't get it. What's the problem? Like, you said the fact that there are mosques doesn't mean this does not imply religious fundamentalism. But maybe you can get religious fundamentalism if you would like, you know? That's right. I'm an advocate for Sharia, baby. That's right. No white Sharia. I'm an advocate for brown Sharia. You feel me? More mosques, and she should not be out there showing her shoulders, okay? Sounds like Islam is the dominant culture where she's from. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you should assimilate to the dominant culture.
The GOP will destroy Social Security and health care. Nice to see you.
So what if Social Security should go away? That's my question to you.
Ben, you are so cooked, dude. I mean, it's probably going to go away if Republicans get their wishes across, and your ass is cooked. You are never going to retire. None of you dipshits are ever going to retire. I swear to God, you can't. You're going to die on the assembly line as a Amazon ordained like Autobot is whipping you in the back. Okay. You're going to be like, oh, at the age of like 73, you're going to die to a communicable disease because like it's illegal to get healthcare now. Dumbass. God, these people are so stupid. The thing that really pisses me off about conservatism in general is just that they actively champion causes that will them. Okay. It's so dumb. The smug nature of just like defending the worst positions that will destroy your life, your future. I will never understand it. It makes me so angry.
Because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. And not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life you don't have enough money to survive.
This is my king's bread and butter, okay? You're talking to a guy who goes to tort conferences for fun. Social Security is his bread and butter. You have fallen into the intellectual trappings of a Samuel Seder, okay?
For right now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
let me just explain this.
Well, you're going to go back to lecturing me about Social Security.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Social Security.
Yeah, Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our government does.
Exactly, and we are more than $30 trillion in debt.
Well, first of all, Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit every year.
That's correct.
We have 30 years.
Self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees because people haven't entered into retirement. By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there. The reason why the trust fund is running out is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money above the cap.
You don't think it's because the government does a terrible job managing their money? They have a huge spending problem, and they go, oh, look at all this money we have for Social Security that's earmarked for 60 years from now that we're just going to spend on something right now.
40 years ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the government are always right? That's totally the thing that you're saying? That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the $40 trillion debt problem. It's you have tax
cuts.
It's the
spending problem. I totally agree with you, which I would argue is part of why Social Security's gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from the Social Security bucket.
No. Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing, the 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is it going down? If everything's so much better, why is it only 78%?
If we raise the cap, there's a cap right now at $176,000. So for instance, if you make $100,000, you pay $6,200 into that.
A year,
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security? $6,200.
And so why should wealthy people hang on? Why?
Wow. why should wealthy people pay more? I don't know. That's just how progressive taxation works. It's like kind of the entire point of our tax structure. It's a good thing because they have more money. What are you going to do with the money when you die? Wealth inequality is a major problem, don't you think? I thought these guys were populous. How'd this happen? Do you make $10 million a year? Like, why? Why do you care? Why? Why do you care? Are you going to make $10 million a year? No. Shut the up. Advocate for your best interests. Rich people advocate for their best interests every day. Poor people, on the other hand, poor Republicans, on the other hand, especially, just genuinely advocate for rich people's interests. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. What's wrong with you, dude? This is why I always say, dude, if you're a conservative, like, you have to be so goddamn lucky. You have to be the luckiest motherfucker on the planet to ever actually reach a level of success where you will benefit from conservative policies. Because conservatism, especially when you're not immediately benefiting from conservative principles, unironically means that you're so stupid, so goddamn peasant brain that you probably aren't going to be rich. You're just not. The smart thing to do in your situation is to advocate for a better future for yourself. Okay? If you get to that point, then you can advocate against it. But for now, you should be advocating for your best interest. Conservatives don't even do individualism and selfishness correctly. That's how stupid they are. That's what pisses me off. They can't even do being selfish right. They literally think being selfish means like harming others that are not in your immediate in-group that you've chosen for yourself, and never on the virtue of class. It's so dumb. What? I completely agree with you, but what he's going to say is, why do wealthy people get Social Security? It's marginal. And if you want them to not get Social Security, you could tax them. Okay? But that's an entirely different conversation. It's like, oh, if we do free college, then rich people will send their children to college. Okay. You think rich people are sending their children to public universities that are free? Great. Wonderful. Everyone has access to education. It's so dumb where people are like, oh, I don't want there to be any publicly funded programs because rich people will take advantage of them, is the most idiotic argument of all time. Okay. One, they don't. And two, who cares if they did? They are paying for it. Why the do you care? Why do you care? Well, the reality is you don't care. You just think it's a good argument, but it's not a good argument. It's additionally funny because they don't even benefit from it. You see what I'm saying? They do not benefit from the things that they're advocating for. They're advocating against their best interests, which means they're stupid. Okay? And if you're a stupid person, you probably are less likely even to make it out the cut.
Why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they should pay the same percentage. 6.2 on $400,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
Yeah, I don't think this person also understands that what lifting the cap means, raising the cap means. Like, he doesn't realize that after $172,000, everyone pays the same. So if you make $172,000 or you make $172 million, you're paying the same into Social Security.
Why should they pay even more money at all? Because they make more money? Again, you fundamentally have this idea that because somebody... Okay, you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society... We should not allow billionaires. So, for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally, but why should they?
The highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy.
Hang on, does a billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course not. So why should they pay more?
I'll tell you why. Because it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
It was high.
Do you know what it was?
I don't know the exact number, but...
If you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470. So if we had today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
it's also the greatest expansion we had of the economy.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places. You see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they fundamentally look at Social Security, young people like me, and they go, I'm going to have that money sitting waiting for me when I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for them?
You're talking like the 401k.
Sure.
Dude, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, that's an incredible idea, man. Okay, I have another one. Okay, how about instead of taking a percentage of your income and putting it into your 401k, you put it into like this holdover in the federal government, okay? And instead of getting over by market volatility, considering that many chatters are probably currently checking their 401k accounts and seeing all red at this moment due to Trump's insane nature and his back and forth attitude on tariffs, a real will they, won't they. Instead of that, how about we just give it, I don't know, we just like put it in an area, we just put it in a space, let's say. I don't want to say anything else. We just kind of give it to a holdover area that and then you can collect it back because it's actively being refunded by other people that are paying for it, you know, like a trust of sorts. What's a secure place that you could do that with that is not subject to like the volatile market conditions? Like maybe, I mean, it could be like it would offer security, right? It would offer like a lot of security because like this is very important, and I guess we could technically socialize it, you know, like a social security. I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think? Like a security for a future society, like a social one. I don't know.
Well, not just a 401k, but for IRAs, any other type of retirement. Would you agree? Would we agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool where back in the day when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions where you'd know how much money you would get out. Yeah. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution where you know how much you put in. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if they could.
If the government were changing the mindset and actually pushing that cultural
so you want to just change the mindset. Yeah, no, I feel like that's not going to work considering what Sam Seder is saying, which is exactly the argument that they made back then, and it's been an abject failure. I think we should do the other thing that everybody likes and wants to maintain. And there's a very easy fix, it seems.
Shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're 65. You have to plan for it right now.
We've had a 40-year experiment with that, the government affecting the culture.
You're not handing people money when they're over the age of 65. You're paying into it.
Mindset, and it failed.
We've had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say? Do you know what grandparents say? They go, well, I'm just waiting for my social security check to come in rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Conservatism and infantile disorder. I swear to God. Okay. Holy dude. Dude, everyone could have $800,000 in their pocket if they did Sigma grindset in the market, dude. Market movements, baby. I'm moving my money. If everyone became a day trader, okay, like we would all be rich, dude. What the That's so dumb.
Thought about it when I was 19 and 20 because I didn't have this grab bag of money waiting for me. You're assuming that young people.
I try and tell my kids.
So we agree. So we agree. We should get rid of Social Security and phase it out. Well, no. So we should phase out. How would you?
That's so dumb. You can still do that without Social Security, you moron. You can do that alongside Social Security. Does he think that Social Security can't exist? And if Social Security exists, like people won't, put aside money culturally in the market? Like what the This is not a mutually exclusive concept. You're like, is you one or the other? Can't do both.
Listen to this idea. You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits. And then people like me who have 40 years until we retire, I'm not going to get it.
I'm going
to get screwed either way.
No,
you
you're
really think I'm going to get Social Security someday?
I guarantee you, at the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's awesome. I'll get $9,000 a year. That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
I would much rather, and again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing with money.
And what happens
Don't rely
if they
on them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens if a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to. They're going to have a problem, but that's not my fault.
No, I got news for you. It's not your fault, but there used to be in New York City 30,000 people sleeping on the Bowery.
No one in this room was alive before
Social
Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
and it
income
has been the most successful government program in the history of our government.
Things that are successful don't just start to die out and end up in the
dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive.
Once again, the conversation is so stupid because there is no, like, he is just refusing to recognize key parts of it, right? Like, he refuses to recognize the solution for funding Social Security further, and he also acts as though it's going to go insolvent, like it's just going to go bankrupt at a certain point, when that's not the case. And it's just like, how can you have a conversation with a person like that? I just don't understand it. It makes no sense.
Excess that was there in the early years because of the 42-to-1 beneficial.
It wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42-to-1 is a massive excess.
There weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that
in 1970 it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is $176,000. That's the cap. If you remove the cap, your grandkids
billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back into.
They're just putting it into some stock market, or they're just looking around.
And what do you think a 401k or an IRA relies upon? It relies on the stock market and things like that.
Yeah, a 401k relies on the stock market, and I knew people who were retiring in 2008 when the stock market tanked and they got screwed.
Well, that's a whole other problem. I would argue that's largely driven by the government being once again terrible with policy and creating bad economic hazards.
Social Security is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thanks,
Micah.
Hey, Micah.
Good evening.
Sam. Nice to meet you.
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't save for retirement, well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay into it.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it does time and time again. If you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65, and it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one.
What do you mean it doesn't? Yeah, it does. Explain why it doesn't.
You should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work? Yeah. Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like,
well, how is it failing?
Because
is it not paying out Social Security beneficiaries at this moment?
I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefit.
told you right
now. I know. I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
the main
look
issue.
At the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? Is because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
No, that's not why. This is the funniest part about this is that this is not hidden. Like, it has been a Republican project since the invention. Okay, and since the Reagan era, where the death of the New Deal Democrats came to be, they've been actively trying to do it. The only thing that stops it from happening, and even Democrats have actually undermined Social Security in the past, or at least tried to undermine it. The Tea Party actually nuked it. Thank God for the Tea Party. Holy shit. Barack Obama literally was literally going to cut Social Security benefits at the time. But the only reason why, like the major reason why Social Security has not been harmed in this process is because old people vote and they love their Social Security. Okay? That's it. But it does currently seem like the mad lad, Donald Trump, might actually end up putting a dent in that. Yeah, Barack Obama almost did it. And you know whose idea it was? Joseph Robinette Biden. That's what. Okay, let's get
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
No, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich people benefited more from it than low-income people? And
like, it literally sunsetted. It's supposed to sunset this year for you, dude in a blazer with an ugly ass t-shirt. The only permanent tax cuts for the top marginal tax bracket, and also for corporations, the corporate tax rate. That's it. Everybody else's taxes are slated to go up. This is going to be a major battle, major legal battle, major legislative battle. Sorry.
And what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage numbers, and we know that's not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are giving other people jobs to allow.
There's that old hat conservatism. Finally, dude. Jesus Christ. It's kind of crazy because, like, MAGA nationalism has, like, kind of stopped advocating for these, like, super old school classic conservative positions. Like, rich people are jobs providers. You must respect them, you know? I think with growing income inequality, Republicans basically realize like they can't get away with that kind of sentiment any longer. But I'm glad that there's at least one person who will bring back the old classics. This is a classic take. Okay. Oh, wealth will trickle down, dude. Rich people are glorious. They're the jobs providers. They're the jobs creators. Excuse me. Put some respect on it. What do you mean they don't need the money? Yeah, rich people don't use money or bring it back into the economy in the same ways that poor people do. That's it. They park it. And then they benefit greatly from the unequal system of capital accumulation. And they get taxed less for it. And there's also, on top of that, there's additional methods of simply borrowing against your pre-existing assets, loans, with even lower interest rates. Instead of a tax at that point, you're just offering a incredibly low, depending on how wealthy you are, an incredibly low interest rate. That is the tax that you're paying, but instead of paying it to the government, you're paying it to a bank. And then just keep doing that over and over again. This is non-taxable because it's a loan. And you die. Buy, borrow, die.
Allow them to provide for their family.
Okay,
Listen,
pause.
Hey, go for it.
What's up? Hey. Good to be back.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay. But Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that
Medicare. I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the Democrats.
It's also the biggest bucket of money.
Sure, it is the biggest bucket, but the Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focused.
Oh no, we got a deficit hawk in the building. Oh, this is another old school conservative guy. I like it. I like it.
Focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we become.
Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
Over like a
right. So
70%
70% of our federal spending is mandatory. And that, you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of we're paying for that. So the Democrats run on this. Essentially, they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people, but it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the U.S. is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really
so are you worried
irresponsible.
about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brownback in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue.
And that's exactly what happened.
Kansas.
No, that's exactly what happened
It
to TCJ.
destroyed Kansas. By 2016, a Republican legislature raised taxes again. They destroyed their education system.
Reality is against you, my friend.
Look up Kansas.
The numbers
during
say
the Trump administration, they sent Sam Brownback. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy around because it was a disaster.
If you want to tax the rich, you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes under Republican. It was the same as Reagan. It was the same as Trump.
Look at
Wait, what? Both Reagan and Trump lowered the top. What? Reagan and Trump both lowered taxes for the wealthy. What the? What is he saying? Is he trying to argue that like when taxes are lowered, wealthy people are more productive and therefore end up even with a lower taxable income or a lower tax rate, they end up paying more in taxes overall? Is that what he's trying to say? Like what? That's what he's trying to say, right? That's the argument that he's making, which Sam directly contradicted because with his Kansas argument, Sam directly undermined the point that he was trying to make, which is that in practice, that's not how that works.
Look at the U.S. Look at the U.S. We have the numbers for this.
It was the perfect
experiment. Obama's best year, federal income revenue is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're confusing causation with correlation because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%. Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor. And that's exactly what happens when they stimulate.
Inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They increased the money supply by $6 trillion.
I understand they did that. I understand they did that. And they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to. You're making an argument for higher taxation.
Do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it make the country
wealthier? Do taxes make us wealthy? Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that the only way you create wealth is by producing?
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people.
No, I understand. Inflation is under control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that
inflation is back down because we had a problem.
The welfare state makes us all poorer. Yes, it does. And you can see it
doesn't.
Across history.
If you compare,
he's playing fast and loose with the concept of poverty over and over again. On the one hand, he's not wrong when he says an increase in GDP does not necessarily mean that like everyone is wealthy, but also simultaneously, he does point to an increase in GDP as like wealth growing. Here, I'll explain it as such. In the K-shaped recovery after COVID, the wealthy put billions of dollars of wealth directly into their pockets. Okay, their net worths exploded. Their net worths grew. That, especially if they're, American billionaires, means that the overall American wealth grew. But that didn't necessarily trickle down to the American poor. Redistributive tax policies are supposed to literally take the money from the tippy top and give it back to the working poor in ways that meaningfully improve their lives. That's it. He starts the argument with taxes are bad because it decreases revenue, but then says stimulus is bad because it increases revenue. Yeah, I'm saying that he on the one hand says that like the overall wealth growing is good, but then simultaneously says GDP with the overall wealth growing is actually bad because it doesn't yield any sort of material benefits for the 99%. Which is why this argument doesn't fucking make sense. You haven't established, once again, an understanding of what the government is supposed to do. I think the government's primary directive is to improve the material wealth of every single citizen, not just the tippy top. It's just a longer way to basically argue on failed Reaganomics that everybody understands in both principle and in theory is an abject failure.
People want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here
what socialist paradise did this believe? Where is the socialist paradise? Vuvuzela? Is he from Vuvuzela? Cuba? Bro's like, we left the socialist paradise. Meanwhile, it's like you're like 3 generations removed at this point from the socialist paradise. He's Venezuelan.
Want economic opportunity, and you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free markets.
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's never
but now there used to be. No, that is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest.
I want to ask this person: when was the American markets truly free? Like, when has there been free markets? Has there ever been a point in time? The freer the markets, the freer the people. When was it free? Like, I guess pre-New Deal, maybe? He's like, they were so free during the Great Depression. Let me tell you a thing or two about robber barons, okay? The freer the market, the freer the people.
America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most ethical and moral.
America had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal tax rate was 90%.
What happened in the 70s?
And
when Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had OPEC.
When your welfare shock.
Milton Friedman predicted. Milton Friedman predicted the oil shock.
That drove inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%. We had wealth inequality shrink. We had something called the Great Compression, and more people enjoy.
Damn. He said we had post-World War II Industrial Revolution. Seems to me like you want centralized planning, incredibly high rates of taxation, and to get dumb bitches like you back to work, okay? Because guess what, dude? If you say, oh, it's the post-World War II Industrial Revolution, guess what, dude? That is America at its closest to the USSR or communism. Obviously not entirely, but if you're talking about like the war economy or post-World War II economy, yeah, that is literally the closest we were to a centrally planned economy. I would love to get back to that. And instead of, building war machines or whatever, I would like to, build things that matter, build things that are good. Free markets. I mean, wait, is he also a free trade advocate? Like, I don't understand. I wonder.
Post World War II industrial revolution, we were producing more than every other country. No, it's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And
production.
we were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals.
When Reagan came in and brought it down, the top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax?
I don't get it. Like, he keeps talking about the benefits of manufacturing in the United States of America, but also then hypes up Ronald Reagan. I mean, is he like a anti-NAFTA free market person? Like, what? Why are you giving Zio liberal Sammy screen time on a show? Are you a leftist? Isn't there more important things to talk about than this spectacle? That's the easiest ban of my life. 6-month subscriber. Insane statement. Okay. Yourself. He says Zio Sammy. Just call him a Jew at that point, you know? Freak.
It was when it was established.
You're talking about the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you to go look at
here's my last
Kansas.
claim. When federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making $100,000 and over. Now we don't even know, most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projection.
Did that chatter hurt your gringo sensibilities? Okay, I'm gonna give you a week off for that one. No, he did not. He was being a freak. It's also weird, especially because Sam Seder's position on Israel is, if not identical to mine, fairly close. Yeah, like we have some differences in opinion every now and then, especially, but not much. Groypers are out of school. No, I don't even think these are Groypers.
Actions that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought, because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like the rich people are smart. So focus on producing. Our top marginal rate still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today. 50% effective tax rate. Does not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes.
Well, I don't know what you mean by wealth. I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services. That's taxes. What wealth is.
I think there's a strain of anti-woke lefties. Do they not realize I'm the wokest of them all? Like, what the I dressed up in a maid outfit, dog. Like, what can be more woke than that?
More taxes.
Money. People think money is
more
wealth.
Taxes
money buys wealth.
Creates less wealth inequality, and then you have wealth that is shared by more people rather than being in the hands of a plutocracy or a plutonomy. And then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen what happens when you punish your top producers over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government,
capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what happens next?
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90% tax rate?
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook. They come in and they're like, guys.
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have higher tax rates.
It is more socialist than ever before.
No,
we have more social welfare span.
The United States of America is more socialist than ever before. We have a 10% union participation rate in labor. And not only that, but also those numbers are still dwindling even after 4 years of Brandonomics. The f do you mean, dude? And labor unions aren't even socialism to begin with. Jesus Christ, dude.
No. GDP, I'll say it again, 38% of government spending, of GDP is government spending. We have more social welfare programs. And look at what happens, but how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We, during in 2021,
what do you mean, what programs?
we expended, hold on, in 2021.
What do you mean, what program? How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like,
let me just finish this.
All right, go ahead.
In 2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment, $300 per social welfare.
Yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%. By 45%, but because no Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Bill Back. I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look it up.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me, and if I was wrong.
All right, we'll call.
I'll do it off camera. And you will see that we cut child poverty in a year by 45%.
I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
All right. We'll talk after.
Wait, he doesn't know. He didn't know that. Like even if you're a little bit interested in undermining the benefits of the American welfare state, as he claims, like that's a basic fact that you should know, that you should have a counter for. I mean, that's like, God damn, the Brandon admin truly did a number on not actually advocating for the things that they were doing. It's kind of crazy. Like a competent Democratic Party would have been featuring that formatively. That would be like the first entry point into the conversation, and that Republicans would have to address it everywhere they go. Like, why do you care? Why do you want to increase child poverty? Why did you actively undermine and increase child poverty? The very fact that they were having to fight amongst themselves and also couldn't whip the votes for it, and also had to and never really attack the Republicans over it is abysmal messaging overall. Something that I talked about on Pod Save America as well.
My next claim is Trump's policies make the rich richer and the working class poorer.
Hello, sir.
Hey,
Hunter Howard. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask what policies in specific are you referencing to?
Tax cuts for the rich. I think his idea of tariffs on countries in the way that he's talking about will make people poorer. I think all.
Hasan actively chooses to fight against his own cause in Palestine, using a platform to harass. Anissa can go F herself, and so can Frogan. What? What are you talking about, dude? I'm pretty sure Ethan exposed you as a radical and you're doing damage to your own cause. Hi, Hasan. Would you like to build a friendship instead of harassing? You're a sad story. When you apologize, you can come back. Anissa should apologize. Y'all don't know how to be friends. This is why war exists, Hasan. You're not a peacemaker, bad friend, bad hombre. You are isolating yourself. I'm pretty sure Ethan exposed you as a radical and you're doing damage to your own cause. You're scared. Huh? Oh my God, Hasan, I love. What a bitter ass lol. Keep going, Hasan. I'm a very cute and mid-sexy Latinx and haven't seen a sing. What the? What is this person saying? I know who Anissa is. I don't know what she has to do with anything. What? What happened? Okay, well, I can't. I've already expended too much of my mental bandwidth on listening to broccoli haircut Zoomers talk about being white nationalists and stuff. I don't know what that person is talking about. God damn.
All the work that they're doing in terms of attacking the government agencies will make people poorer because, you know, when you get agencies that are supposed to protect us from corporate interests, they will externalize their costs, those corporations, instead of actually assuming themselves. So their profits are made on the backs of all of us, whether it's our health, our protection from consumer rights, worker rights. His anti-union policies will make us poorer.
So real quick, I'm going to touch on one of the things that you said. Now, there was a lot to unpack there, but
there's a lot of policies.
We'll start at the very beginning. You talked about taxes. Let's talk about, in his first term, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. There are a couple things in that specific policy that actually do benefit the middle class and the lower class more than the top 1%. So you mentioned taxes, right? But in that, from the IRS data that came out, the middle class and lower class got affected. I think they ended up saving like 3 to 4% on their taxes, on their tax cuts, whereas the billionaires only saved 2%. So if we're talking an actual dollar amount, sure, the billionaires save more, but they also make a lot more, right? Also, the billionaires don't really care about an extra grand or two. In that specific policy, the child tax credit doubled from $1,000 per household to $2,000. No billionaire cares about an extra grand in their pocket, but I can guarantee you the working class does. So how would you rebuttal that?
I would say in terms of the taxes themselves, well, the policies that Trump wants to pursue this time are to expand those taxes for wealthy folks. And over time, what starts to happen is you have this wealth disparity, and as the wealth disparity increases, it becomes harder for working people essentially to keep up. Things become more expensive. You get inflationary pressures when you have people with more money. We have more and more billionaires than we did 4 years ago. And a large part of that was obviously COVID, but a large part of it is also money starts to accelerate. Once you, like you say, when a millionaire gets a tax cut for a couple of grand or 60 grand or $500,000 at the end of the day, they end up investing that and it ends up growing because they're not out there working for their money. Their money is just is doing all the work.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think we can agree with you on that when it comes to, billionaires and millionaires and there being a wealth gap in our country, right? I don't think Republicans or liberals would disagree on that, but I think where we will fundamentally disagree is under Trump, right, the stats show that take-home pay was higher for the middle class and the lower class. Inflation was down. They weren't paying as much on taxes.
Inflation was down, but wage growth was actually greater during the Biden administration.
Well,
I mean, good thing that Trump is here on a second term on the heels of an inflationary crisis. So now they don't have to compare it to an economy that actually was doing comparatively better after 2 terms of Democratic leadership, and they can actually see how Donald Trump manages that situation. As a matter of fact, he is managing that situation currently in the worst ways possible. So, it's neither here nor there. I feel like one of the biggest advantages that the Republicans have is that when they make these tax code changes, the impact of that is not seen immediately. So they'll just keep harping on how wonderful everything is. Meanwhile, things are just getting marginally worse, and the only direction that we go towards is more tax cuts for the wealthy. It's like the problem that wealth inequality, mass layoffs, an affordability crisis born out of all of these regressive policies that the Republicans and also sometimes liberals both implement. And then the solution to that problem, more of the same thing that caused the problem to begin with. Good stuff. I guess overall the question is, like, since the Reagan era, have Americans actually been better off overall or not? Sure, American productivity has skyrocketed. Sure. The GDP has grown, but is the 99% doing better overall? Or is the bottom 80% doing better overall than the top 10% of the wealthy in this country? The answer is no. Quality of life is down. Everything sucks. People don't have any confidence in their own futures. And there's got to be a reason for that. And the reason for that, Republicans look at that anger and resentment born out of this volatility and say, oh, it's because the federal government is funded too much. We should undermine it further.
That's because due to COVID, when a lot of people lost jobs.
No. I mean, I'm talking in percentage comparison between those 4 years and these past 4 years. Wage growth grew not from as a baseline on 2020, but I'm talking as a baseline from 2016.
Interesting. Okay, well then another point that I want to talk on with you real quick is you talked about slashing government agencies, for instance, the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm sure you've heard about that a lot in the news.
That's not a government agency. That's just some committee.
It actually an executive order was signed to make DOGE an official government agency as of less than a week ago. So yeah, It is an official government agency.
It's not. DOGE is not an official government agency. It just operates as like it operates under a Obama era agency. It's like supposed to be what is it, like the digital thing?
So
DOGE is not a full government agency. Yeah, it reorganized an existing group within the executive office of the president to form DOGE. Yeah. The U.S. Digital Service. Thank you.
Obviously, we're talking about money. We want people to be able to afford a house. We want them to be able to afford to raise a family, right? As a young man myself, I want to be able to grow up in America and be able to afford food one day, right? I mean, I can't now, but continue that. And at the way things are going, it's unsustainable for people on the left, people on the right, people in the middle. So we have to come to a common ground on how to fix that. What's unsustainable? The fact that cost of living is increasing year after year.
What does Doge do to inhibit cost of living?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Doge is going to do, the Department of Government Efficiency, is slash a lot of the federal spending, right? So what happens when
what
the feds...
spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. 1 second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government, Republicans, Democrats alike, spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Be more specific. Here or there. Are you talking about cutting defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
wait a second.
Well, no. Let me finish. Okay. $175 billion to Ukraine, first and foremost. That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to talk about that, but we also have a bunch of other things in the Defense Department, as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching, first of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's completely false.
Listen. Defense spending is not going to be touched by Doge.
Ron.
And when you talk about the government, what's the biggest expenditure government has?
Our military and Social Security are our top two.
And Medicare and Medicaid, right? Now, they're not going to touch the military. Are they going to cut Social Security? Do you think that's going to...
You're asking me like I'm part of Doge.
No. Well, you're telling me that Doge is going to help everybody here. And I'm telling you, if they cut Social Security, everybody in here is going to get hit. Because these folks are going to have to pay for their parents because Social Security keeps 2/3.
I think like being a leftist or even a liberal, really, and being surrounded by conservatives is like a nightmare where you're just like, dude, they're going to kill you. Like, don't jump in the hot lava. And you're just like surrounded by people who are like, no, you don't understand. Like, they told me the hot lava is actually like a molten lava cake. And it's delicious. Like, I'm going to jump in the lava. You. And you're like, no, don't do it. I know people that have jumped in the hot lava. They've died. Okay. And it's a really gruesome death. Like, their body starts melting in real time. And you just have to sit there and watch them melt. And you're like, nah, lava is actually yummy. I think you're stupid. And I've heard other people jumping in the lava and eating a delicious molten lava cake before. And I'm going to do it. F you. Like, that's what it feels like. You're just like, no, dude, your life is going to be worse. And he's right. He's like, they're actively destroying your future. Like, what remains of your future. The reason why you talk about the cost of living crisis and all this shit, like all these things that are harming you is directly born out of deregulation and causing so much wealth disparity. And you're just actively demanding more of it. Nope. I'm going to jump in the lava. Shut up, bitch.
2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to
so
be...
He's going to...
So Donald Trump has signed an executive order.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you, sir.
Donald Trump is going to stop giving money to Ukraine. And then guess what, dude? We're saved.
Okay, so why did we see a higher increase in the top 1% paying as part of federal income revenue under TCJA?
Why did we see a higher increase in the...
So under TCJA, it was passed 2017, right. It was effective 2018. 2018 and onward, we actually saw the top 1% pay more. They had more of the federal income tax burden. They paid 45% as opposed to Obama. During Obama's tax plan, they only paid about 40 to 42% of the federal income tax.
Because they got more money.
Right. Okay. So they got more money.
They got richer.
But why are they paying? And why did they get richer? So this goes on inflation that.
I mean, that's my point. Is the rich are getting richer?
Right. But you mentioned. Why would you say that they're getting richer? But you mentioned inflation.
No, they're not. Well, I mean, I think that they.
I do want to mention something, but like, Sand Fact Check is owned by a wealthy billionaire. If you're feeling some type of way about some of the fact checks. Anyway, in the first term of the Trump administration, the share paid by the top 1% ranged from 39% to nearly 46%, as opposed to under the Obama administration, the taxes paid by the top 1% ranged from 35 to 39.5%. Okay? That is because the wealthy, the top 1%, accumulated more wealth in the process. That hasn't even changed really. And that's probably going to still continue. If the bottom 99% have more wealth overall, they would contribute a higher percentage to, this is not individual tax burdens. Okay. This is not an effective tax rate. They're not talking, don't get tricked by these percentages. They're not talking about the effective tax rate to the individual in the top tax bracket. What they're talking about is what the 1%, the top 1% of wealth, and how much they paid in taxes overall, as an overall percentage of income tax. Okay? This is not an appropriate metric of the overall taxes that were accumulated in the process, and it is a very deceptive, underhanded way to approach the subject matter. If your argument is about destroying wealth inequality and bringing back some kind of parity, okay, this is an awful metric to look at, because this basically proves Sam Seder's point, which is that, yes, the top 1% grew wealthier and wealthier. And in the process, as they were growing wealthier and wealthier, the amount that they contributed to the coffers in the lower tax rate that they got was higher overall. But the reality of the matter is, in terms of the effective tax rate at the end of the year for a wealthy person, that percentage is incredibly low and gotten even lower. The effective tax rate for you as the average American is like close to 50%, whereas the effective tax rate for someone like Warren Buffett is like what, 0.06 or some shit like that. So overall, this number doesn't mean anything other than the fact that, yes, the top 1% became wealthier overall and therefore contributed to the overall sum by a higher percentage. Having said that, if there was more wage parity, or if wages had actually adjusted across the board alongside productivity, for example, and there was less income inequality, then the top 1%'s contributions to the overall taxes, the overall taxable revenue coming from federal income taxes would be far smaller. Yeah. The easiest way to debunk this figure is to say if the top 1% had 100% of the wealth, then they would pay 100% of the tax burden. Thank you. Exactly.
Inflation?
No, they're not. Well, I mean, I think that inflation, to the extent that there was money that wasn't a function of like logistics and other problems that we had during COVID, yeah, the rich got richer. Not all inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus into the economy, you can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics. Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can tell you this: inflation went up in Western European countries the same rates
that had stimulus.
No, they didn't have the same level of stimulus that we did. No, they did.
They absolutely did.
They did.
You can look at Japan. I hear this topic all the time from the Democrats. They say, "Oh, inflation was global." Not true. China never went above 3% inflation during all of COVID, and they were actually they were under deflationary pressures. Japan, which is part of the G7, was also never had deflationary pressures. They never had inflation increase. The only countries that had inflation increase.
In Western Europe, you could see inflation. Well, you could England, Germany, Italy, France. They didn't stimulate as much as we did. It wasn't monetary inflation. If you look at the cost of goods and logistics got screwed up because of COVID.
So let's look at the reason. All international trade, because we're the world reserve currency, is done in U.S. dollars. Because we experienced it, domestic inflation was high.
Dude, these fact checks are coming in so fast. In a study of advanced economies, the inflation rate at least doubled from early 2010 to early 2022 in 37 of the 44 countries. In 16 countries, the inflation rate quadrupled. Okay, so that's 1 point for Sam.
Inflation, if you look at
Second,
all international trade, because we're the world reserve.
China's annual inflation rate has been below 3% since May 2020. Japan suffered from economic stagnation from 1990s through 2021, resulting in deflation. It is often called Japan's lost decades. Japan is not an adequate comparison, and neither is China. Obviously, our economy is closer to Western European nations, which did see tremendous rates of inflation.
Currency is done in U.S. dollars. Because we experience it, domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation caused higher inflation in Europe?
Absolutely, because
that's not what economists say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar-denominated international trade. All international trade that's why we're the world reserve currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
it did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export our inflation. Like the strength.
We export our inflation.
Yeah, and let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe asset in the world. In times of great crisis and great volatility, like COVID crisis, everybody turns to the dollar.
Sure.
Many currencies are tied to the dollar. So it's like when you
the euro is not tied to the dollar.
The euro is not, but international trade. So if the euro actually crashed against the dollar during COVID. The euro used to be above the dollar.
I'm unclear what your point.
My point is that the inflation is caused by left-wing policies, and
so inflation was caused by, you're saying,
supply shock and pumping trillions of dollars into the economy.
First of all, you understand that the Federal Reserve.
Inflation is never caused famously by any fiscal policy, because the only fiscal policy that ever happens is not leftist fiscal policy, but right-wing fiscal policy, which is tax cuts. Inflation can only be caused by monetary policy, which this guy is saying is leftist, okay? Printing money is a leftist principle. That's it. Tax cuts are also inflationary, but of course he won't recognize that, or he won't mention that, because that would undercut the point that he's trying to make, which is that leftist policies are what is causing inflation. Yeah, famous socialist Jerome Powell and his inflationary policies
is not part of. Biden didn't have control over the Federal Reserve.
Absolutely not. But the entire Federal Reserve System is left-wing in economic theory. That's the.
Oh my God, bro, that is crazy. American monetary policy is left-wing. Is hilarious to me. That is insane. JD Powell equals JD Pond. Keynesian economics is left wing. I mean, from his worldview, probably. Yeah, if you're like a Friedman truther, then yeah, you're like, that's the most left wing thing I've ever heard. There's nothing beyond that point.
Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics. So
you're saying that the
more you
quantitative easing,
the more you stimulate. Yeah.
Why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it through
Why
QE.
didn't we get inflation during the Obama years?
We did get inflation.
We didn't get
the wealth gap that you guys attribute. We absolutely did.
What numbers were inflation?
From 2008 to 2014, the Federal Reserve did quantitative easing, buying up treasuries to increase the money supply. Okay. The rate of inflation back then was nowhere near comparable to the Brandon admin.
We get during the Obama years that were outside of like the 2% sort of Fed target.
I don't think it was as high as COVID. COVID hit as high as 9%.
No, it wasn't even remotely close.
Right, but when we look at the effects of compounding inflation.
QE1.
For most of the Obama admin, consumer price inflation hovered around or under 2%. In summer 2011, annual consumer price inflation briefly rose to 3.8%, driven by higher food and energy prices. By spring 2012, inflation was back below 2%.
2 and 3 all happened during the Obama years. If your theory was correct, we would have had rampant inflation. In fact,
we did.
Glenn Beck was talking.
No, we didn't. We did not. We did not have that. That is crazy to say we did. I mean, he doesn't. I don't know why he's saying we, because he's like younger than me, so he definitely doesn't even remember it. But
talking about how we were going to turn into Weimar Germany, and none of that happened.
Here's the factors you're missing.
None of it.
Here's the factors you're missing.
So if you look at what's happening at Western Europe, well, no, listen.
We didn't close down the economy. The Biden administration closed down the economy.
I understand.
No, they what?
Wait, what?
Excuse me. The Biden administration.
Yes, they forced mass.
Wait, is he saying that the Trump administration's actions were also it should be attributed to Biden? Or does he think that Biden was the shadow president when Trump was president?
Mandates, they supported Democrats.
Wait.
They supported Democrat
states. Do you
states.
not remember who was president in the first year of COVID?
What? Yeah, it was Trump. I'm not right. So I'm not saying Trump had a role in this, but I'm saying.
Well, wait a second. By the time in 2021, the economy was.
See, you don't understand. Jerome Powell is famously a Maoist. And he was actually not appointed He was not. He didn't rise to power as a Maoist under Trump. He was actually under the secret mind control of the other Maoists, Brandon. Okay, all decisions made during COVID in an effort to do COVID recovery was actually the Brandonian mind control. Okay, all the printing, all the money printing, all that. That was actually Brandonian Maoist mind control. This is Mao Zedong thought. Mao Zedong Brandonist thought. You understand? That's how it works. That's it. Also, Jerome Powell is a Republican, a registered Republican. But that's besides the point, I think, you know, because that's a secret. That is actually to cause you, a simpleton, to not realize that he's actually an Irish Republican and a Maoist. And the appointment was actually Trump that was also under the mindset of Maoist Brandonist thought when he was doing shutdowns.
Opening back up.
Yes, the economy.
All of what you're talking about.
No thanks to the Democrats.
Well, okay,
the Democrats wanted to keep it closed.
Okay. So okay, you can talk about hypothetically what the Democrats want, but
it's not hypothetically. We can look at mass. We can look at their mandates. We can look at them closing down.
The economy closed down in 2020, March of 2020.
Well, okay, sure.
Donald Trump was president.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
How's it going, sir? Good. How you doing? Sam.
Finally, dude, the Amish get a say in this. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear an Amish person's position on Trump's policies making the rich richer and the working class poorer.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When you're talking about like inflation in
Talk to me, Ezekiel.
2021, Janet Yellen said it would be transitory, and then again in 2022 she said it would be transitory, and it turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine. And I believe, and I can explain, that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad.
Oh my God, I was wrong. This dude is just from Dagestan. My apologies. I thought he was Amish. It turns out he's Dagestani. He's going to connect it all to Brandon undermining Russia and also Dagestan. My mistake.
Foreign policy, and that shot inflation up from, like, there was already pretty bad inflation in early 2022 and in late 2021.
Yeah, his parents sent him to Dagestan for 2 to 3 years and forgeti. Yeah, that's what happened. He learned how to grapple with the best of them, okay? He's back, and he's grappling with Sam Seder's mind right now. One phone call, brother. Brother, one phone call. Send them to Dagestan for 2 to 3 years and forget.
But it shot it up from the low kind of margins in like 3 or 4%, all the way to 9% in 2022 of July at the peak.
Jedediah Nurmagomedov. Yeah.
Inflation is now down around 2%, around where
Yeah, in between 2.5.
Yeah,
and 6,
where they're looking to get it, and we have really close to record unemployment that we've had over the past 4 years. But how does this have to do with Trump's policies not making the richer richer and the rest of us poor?
Okay, so what I was just explaining with, I was going to get into oil prices. So oil prices skyrocketed in 2022 because in 2021, when Biden got into office, he shut down our Keystone pipeline, shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then he took the sanctions off.
We are producing right now more oil in this country than we ever have in the history of any country everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
On top of the fact that Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I am terribly excited about.
What did he just do on the East Coast?
Apparently,
What did he just sign?
what Biden did during the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back
he
up,
drained our
and
entire
he
strategic
filled it
oil
back up, and he broke the negotiating power and the price setting power by oil countries across the world.
Really
I mean, oil traders hail him for doing this, and frankly, I don't think it's that impressive. But let's talk about what Trump's policies are.
We only have a little bit of time left, but I was getting to that. So oil prices in 2021, Biden took all the sanctions off of the pipeline in Russia, and then the pipeline in Russia ran straight through Ukraine originally, and he knew that if he invaded Ukraine would destroy the pipeline, and his economic success would be destroyed in Russia. And then when the sanctions,
Biden or
Putin knew that would occur in Russia if the sanctions were taken off of that pipeline. And Biden took all the sanctions off of Nord Stream 2 in Russia, like the second week he was in office. And then a year later, Putin invades Ukraine. Sanctions happen all over the world, and inflation rises within 6 months all the way up to 9%. Trump is going to do great things with oil and let us drill, and what that actually...
I don't know if there's any way to have a conversation with this person, because he's just making a lot of assumptions about what Trump will do, and also fantasizing about how the things that he's assuming Trump will do will end up being very positive. He also said that, like, Biden, I didn't understand it. Was he saying that Biden was too soft on Russia and Trump is going to be harder, kind of? Like, what? Or Biden released the sanctions on Nord Stream 2 and that's what caused inflation? How the fuck would that even work? I don't know what he... Like, I don't understand. Or is he saying that Biden was conspiring with... he was conspiring with Vladimir Putin? What?
Actually does for the economy.
Like I say, we are producing more oil in this country than any country in the history of the world.
What executive order did Biden just sign to have to do with offshore drilling in the East Coast?
He stopped it.
Yeah. Really dumb idea. We're about to begin a new...
Well, so you want to go beyond even the record-breaking thing?
Yes, I want to become energy independent. Climate, and that lowers inflation.
We're going to sell this oil. We don't use the oil. We sell it. We sell
getting money in the pockets of American citizens.
We sell it. Well, how is that oil getting to the pocket of American citizens?
Because when you lower the prices of oil, that lowers the prices of all products.
I understand that the inflationary prices effective of energy, but the fact of the matter is, they're just going to sell it.
Yeah, we're
going to sell it.
Yeah, so we're going to.
You want to produce even more oil than we are now.
Yes.
And you don't think climate change is going to impact? No. You don't believe in climate change?
Well, that's a whole nother discussion, but no.
Well, I mean, it's sort of the same discussion.
Yeah, no, I believe that climate change is, well, there's obviously an element of climate change that is partially true, but lowering or
Which part of it?
Raising man-made raising temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius in the next 150 years isn't necessarily a detriment to society. Human beings.
You don't think so?
He's like, yes, back in my home country, Dagestan, it's no problem. It rains, it's snow, not so much snow is good. I learned how to wrestle. It's very good. Now I wrestle outside. No more snow in mountain. In Dagestan, it's fine. A little bit. It's a little bit, 2.5 centigrade. Up there, high in the mountain, it's very cold. Lots of snow. No more snow after climate change. It's very good for me.
No, human beings are very good at innovation, and we can build seawalls, and we can create carbon technology.
What kind of seawall are you going to build?
What the fuck? Oh, that's amazing. Conspiring with Vladimir Putin to drop sanctions and invade Ukraine, to goad Ukraine into blowing up the Nord Stream? Yeah, no, you don't understand. His mind works in a mysterious way. He has gotten... Now I do believe he got choked out in Dagestan far too much and lost oxygen to his brain for far too long. And that's why he's making up these insane statements. He's also popped off so hard, people aren't even hitting the red flag right now because they're just like, where is this gonna go? Amazing. We wrestle bear, brother.
For Miami, what are you going to do about when we get?
I'm talking about the economy right now, which if we get back on topic.
All right, guys. Sorry, time's up. I let you go
no problem.
Longer.
Amish Dagestani First, I thought it was Amish, but then he started talking about how Biden and Vladimir Putin were doing a grand conspiracy to invade Ukraine together. Then I was like, maybe he's Dagestani.
I choose Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security.
My claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
Abortion is immoral and should not be legal. Dude, are Zoomers whole ass gone? Like, are they done? Is it over? Is the project over? No, right? Like there's polls on this stuff, right? Like this is far from the average Zoomer thought, right? This has got to be like unique. This is a self-selecting group of Zoomers. I don't want to think. But that's a boring fact versus fiction debate. It requires nothing to back up its claim. It's free. Zoomer here, bro, is mostly the men. I think one day scientists will study what like the Andrew Tate style phenomena did to the mind of the average Zoomer man, like the podcaster, the state of podcasters and what it has done, like the permanent damage it has caused to the collective psyche of Zoomer men. Also on top of that, I think COVID too. If there are scientists that remain at that point, because I feel like they're all going to be underfunded, they're going to cut science in general. No more scientific discovery. No more of that. That's woke and gay. So if there are any scientists that remain, Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, COVID, yeah, it's podcasts, dude. I think podcasts have done like lead poisoning levels of damage to the minds of Zoomer men.
Yeah, I disagree because largely because I think the primary rights that we have under a society should belong to the person, and I don't believe a fetus is a person.
Okay. Okay, so that's very interesting. You don't believe the fetus is a person. When do you think that it gains personhood, in your opinion? Would you agree it's a human life, at least?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't care about this. I just think that like a philosophical debate about personhood is unproductive, especially when you're talking about the legislative agenda. Okay? Like that's not how legislation works. You can't like having a philosophical conversation about personhood is fine and dandy, but the moment that you actually let that philosophical conversation or disagreement set the legislative agenda for what people can and can't do to themselves in their own bodies, well, that's when we got problems. Okay? You can't, like, it's ridiculous. You don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's supposed to be about harm reduction. And obviously, making a woman carry a pregnancy to term is causing great harm to an existing human being with life experience, with loved ones and whatnot. It's a tremendous amount of harm that you're forcing upon the carrier. It's ridiculous. And the legislation that comes along with that, like the restrictions that come along with that, actually are incredibly consequential, incredibly damaging, because there's plenty of people that even this dipshit would agree should be able to get a right, should be able to get an abortion, like medical intervention that is an absolute necessity. That's who is being harmed at the end of the day. I also do think, jokingly, that if a little pill can X out the fetus and you just like kind of pee it out, you know, you just kind of bleed it out, then, you know, that's not a life. I'm sorry. It's barely a life when it's outside the womb. You know what I mean? That's it. That's a weak ass baby. Skill issue. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? You got to... No womb, no opinions, please and thank you. Okay, these are two dudes having a conversation about abortion, and a third dude that's also, looking at the conversation that these two dudes are having. Everyone's a dude. Everyone's a dude. If you can eat a pill, by the way, someone said good stop joke, and that's crazy to say because the whole eating a pill and pissing out the baby is like a thing that I've been saying for years. Okay, that's not a Stavros joke. You probably haven't been here for long enough to hear me say this. Here come the that say abortion pills are not benign. Okay. There are definitely pills you can take that would one-shot you, though. Nah, I'm built different. No. Bro's never heard of cyanide? Nah, I can survive it. I mean, a cyanide pill can also take you out a person, so your argument makes no sense. Okay, eat a fucking abortion pill. Will it kill you? No. My point proven. Yes, there's obviously poison pills like cyanide that could kill the average person, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about a pill that specifically causes something that is not a full fleshed out human being to basically turn into dust inside of the womb. Okay? If you're like this big, okay, and your carrier eats a pill and you're a clump of cells and you turn into a heavy flow period magically over the course of 24 hours, then you weren't a human being. What the f are we talking about? I'm sorry. The comparison to cyanide pills are stupid, okay? I will eat abortion pills for breakfast. There's no other process in which, like, you take a pill and then someone else dies. What are we talking about? You're on a good point. Stop losing what you actually mean. Like, you imagine you just, yeah, I took a fish oil pill this morning and then someone next to me just dies, okay? It's crazy. Crazy.
You could say that. I mean, yes, I think that's, I mean, largely, I think that claim is largely like, it's not relevant to the way that I think about it. I think about it in terms of personhood. I mean, I think, like, you know, life exists all around us. And
not human. Well, I mean, human life, but not like there's not human life in a tree. Correct.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So it's human life.
It's human life.
But it's not a person?
It's not a person.
At which point does it gain personhood and gain the value of being a human?
Well, I think it becomes a person when it's born.
Why? So 5 seconds prior, it's not born yet, not person. 5 seconds after exits the birth canal, person. Is there a magical?
Yeah, I hate this. I hate that there's a magical distinction. Like, who cares, man? No. It just doesn't matter. This is not how we do legislation, okay? This is why the argument is so dumb. I don't think it's a person after it's born, okay? How about that? How about that, bitch? What are you going to say about it? Dumbass baby can't make a sandwich. Dumbass baby can't hold a conversation. Get the fuck out of here. Baby is not a person until like 5 or 6, okay? I don't want to hear no goo gaga ass bullshit either. How about that? Yeah, can't hold his dumbass head up. The hell? Got a soft spot? Literally has a soft spot. Has a button, okay? All right, let's keep going.
Quality to the birth canal? What is that?
The person becomes separate from the host that has been that it's been growing inside.
Okay, so would you assign that to other human beings that are attached to things? Like, for instance, if I'm attached to a machine, am I a machine now? Am I part of that machine, or am I still a human life? I just need support in order to stay alive.
If you've never been born, and you're growing in, let's say, a test tube, for instance, then yes, I would argue you're not a person yet.
Okay, so then, but it's not really the disconnected part. It's the being born part.
Well, being born means being disconnected from your mother.
Okay, so you're specifically aligning having the quality of being birthed as what makes someone a person.
Person within the context of like our society.
I mean, yeah, that is the legal definition. That's why your fetus doesn't count as a person. You know what I mean? Until it's out of your womb. So yeah, Sam is taking a legal position here. That baby ain't nothing until it's got a social security number. Okay. Sorry, I don't make the rules. You know who does? The federal government. You feel me? Yeah, no, your votes don't count as 2. There's no babies being counted in the census. Get the f out of here. Yeah, no certificate, not a person. That's it. Sam Seder should say it's his belief based on Judaism. I know. You could kind of lock a lot of Republicans with that as a Jewish person. Low key. It's kind of a superpower in that regard.
Society and civilization.
So just in our society, you wouldn't say that objectively that's a person. You would say that we just decide that it's a person because it's a birth.
Yeah, rights we give to persons. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's an interesting kind of definition of what human life and specifically personhood
Well, no,
is.
I don't. I'm conceding that it's human life, but that you're not a person until you're born, and you do not have the same rights that we would give. Look, we have rights about cruelty to animals, for instance.
I mean, are legal arguments to define who's a person a good stance? No, we're just not really entertaining the philosophical concept of personhood, which is not necessarily definable. There is no consensus surrounding it, and that's not something that you can use to craft legislation. And because it's a wholly unproductive subject matter when you talk about the morality around abortion, but more importantly, the legality around abortion, that we like to have fun with the argument and make silly arguments. Because if you were to legislate around arbitrary designations that change from person to person, that there's no established consensus on, not even scientifically, then it would be completely ridiculous. Okay? It would be just as, that person's argument around personhood is just as ridiculous as me saying a baby is not a person until it can entertain me. Okay? It's just, the difference is a lot of people think that his position sounds a lot more reasonable. Neither of these positions, and his position is closer to reason than mine because I'm obviously joking, but report for hate speech, can't report him for hate. Somehow his reports are getting denied. Off Hasan, you scumbag. Report for hate speech. Wow, we got a real abortion illegalizer in the chat. Just spamming it. You know, when you say report for hate speech, that doesn't actually work, right? I have to literally do hate speech, and you can't just type it out. Also, why are you admitting that you're abusing the hate speech report tool in the chat? Are you a baby? Am I doing hate speech against babies? You might be mentally stunted like a baby. Did somebody poke your soft spot? Is that what happened? You did, and it refused to report. Wait, what was my hate speech? Report for hate speech, XXX. The only fun position is supporting recreational abortion at all stages of life. Agreed. But did that previous chatter understand my point? Which is that if you're advocating for the legality or illegality of abortions, then the conversation can't be centered around concepts such as personhood. Okay? It can't. That's not how legislation works. You have to look at harm and who's being harmed and how to mitigate said harm. And if you understand that the carrier is being harmed in every single case where a carrier is forced to carry a pregnancy to term, then yeah, you can't make abortion illegal. It's ridiculous. I asked this person what my hate speech was, and he just said, you did, and it refused to report. I want to know what he thinks I said that was hate speech. The scientific answer to this question, real heartbeat brain function is about 7th month of pregnancy. Yes. Or viability outside of the womb is another argument, but it doesn't matter because ultimately then you arrive at, I'll show you what the then you arrive at okay, if scientists can carry a pregnancy, if scientists can offer viability outside the womb at 2 months, then is that appropriate? I'll show you.
Right? But they're not persons within the context of our society.
I'm not saying that they are, but specifically it seems like you're just kind of saying, oh, it's a person when it's born, but you're not actually providing any consistent reason for that. You're just saying it just is a person.
I'm saying that on some level there's a certain amount of arbitrariness as to when we give rights. One could say, do you say it's at conception?
Sure, yeah.
So IVF, in other words, would have to be illegal under your principle, because
I mean, I'm not sure that I would agree with IVF in that case. It really depends on the particulars in that case. But I believe.
Well, what do you mean?
Why? What do you mean? It depends on the particulars. What particulars? IVF is a literal fertilized egg. There's literally baby genocide happening inside of test tubes on a regular basis. Hello? You can't. Like, what? This is the problem. These guys don't have any sort of moral consistency anyway. At least I admit, I'm like, I don't know when a person is a person. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I don't want like random women to have to carry pregnancies to term, because I understand that process is sometimes deadly, you know? Why the would you do that? If I could get pregnant, I would not want to have the government restrict what I do in that situation. Like, it's that simple. It's literally basic empathy, you know? I just don't understand how so many people still are like, nah, you don't understand. It's immoral. You're doing murder. I was like, shut the up, dude. You're the one who's advocating the murder migrants coming in to the country without proper paperwork. And you're over here talking about having a whole ass thing inside of you growing, sucking up your life force and shit. Because that's the difference between someone who wants to have a pregnancy versus someone who wants to have an abortion. That's the difference. It's up to the carrier. The moment that they don't want to have this pregnancy, it's literally an invasive force on you. It's so stupid. It makes no sense to me. These guys literally are like, oh, if someone breaks into my house, they're about to suck lead, okay? Meanwhile, you're literally also simultaneously advocating for the government to be like, not even like someone breaking into your house, someone growing inside of you, and you just have to possibly die in the process of giving birth to this thing. Like, get the f out of here. Yeah. This guy, by the way, instead of showing me, just said that I agree with. I think they meant I agree with your statements about abortion. We're slowly bringing this chatter back to life. He's slowly recognizing that I wasn't doing hate speech. I was really excited to see what he considered to be me doing hate speech.
Particulars in that.
Well, so for instance, at conception, you would still be a human life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the fertilized egg attaches to you to a wall.
Is it human
right?
life for you, or what?
It's human life, yeah.
Okay, so human life should be protected.
Yes.
Okay, so IVF.
Yeah, I would say that.
So IVF should be illegal under your rubric.
No. So they're human lives, correct?
The IVF is when the egg and the sperm in that and then they're supplanted.
Yes.
Is it when is it human life?
As soon as it has unique human DNA. That's a human life.
Okay, so
it's a new human, correct?
Now, you know, in the IVF process, there's stuff that gets thrown out. Like,
yes.
You would consider that murder.
I'm not even defending IVF or going against it. I'm specifically saying abortion. That was my claim, right? I'm not going to argue IVF.
But isn't that abortion under your principle?
I would say if you get rid of human life after conception, I don't think that's moral. I'm not going to argue the IVF particulars because that's not what my claim was, right?
When we're talking about laws, right, because you want to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. When we're talking about laws, it's not just morality when we form public policy around and create laws.
Not just, but it should be moral, correct?
Well, I mean, I think like your definition of what constitutes moral and mine are different. For instance, I would prefer, in a perfect world, not to have abortion on demand until, up until birth, right?
Sure.
In a perfect world. However, we know in practice that when you start to restrict things, like say, only in the threat of life to the woman, let's say, that's the only way we're going to allow abortions, right? When you start to have these exceptions, they're in practice, they don't work. Because when your life is in jeopardy and you come into a hospital, the doctor doesn't see a bulb that shows up above you and say, like, your life is in jeopardy. It's always a subjective assessment. And what does life in jeopardy, hold on, what does life in jeopardy mean? Does it mean a 30% chance of death? Does it mean a 50%, a 70%, or a 20%? That's why we now have women who are dying. because doctors are afraid to perform abortions on them. That's true.
Are you referencing just because some doctors misread plain text doesn't mean that that it's
when you
all of a sudden that life is
laws,
less valuable or more valuable?
No. It means that you are subjecting the woman to more risk, and it's impossible. These exceptions are all, they're canards.
No,
when you oppose a law, it is not just about morality, it's in practice.
Sure,
in practice,
I understand that.
You cannot do this without sacrificing women.
There we go. There we go. Bringing it back. That's how laws are written, or at least in theory, that is how laws are supposed to be written. Okay? That's it. That's why so many Republicans that go abortion is murder are like, but also in cases of incest, it's not murder any longer. Why? It's still murder, dumbass. Why are you lying? If you truly believe that it's murder, and you should not believe in IVF. You should make IVF illegal. You should literally advocate to force pregnancies born out of pedophilic rape and incest and make these little girls carry pregnancies to term. The reason why you don't advocate for that is because you understand that there are exceptions. And the reason why you understand that there are exceptions is because it's not murder. Deep down inside, you also understand you just don't care about what happens to women broadly. And that's the reason why you're like, okay, it's murder sometimes. I hate it. I hate that. It's just, you said abortion is immoral and should not be legal because you think it's murder, but you don't actually think it's murder. There are some who do, but those people are real freaks. What do you mean? Oh, well, abortion is murder, but sometimes murder is awesome. Okay, what a stupid position you have. I guess, I guess you don't think it's murder then. Like, what? This is why, considering the actual, like, financial restrictions and the medical restrictions and the medical intervention necessary for third trimester abortions, that is a self-selecting group of people who actually were trying to carry a pregnancy to term and had to get medical intervention that's necessary, which is why even the conversation around late-term abortions is a red herring. It's a silly distraction. Oh, late-term abortions. It's like, no, dude, there's no woman is carrying a pregnancy to almost term to then be like, now is the time for me to kill this baby. All right. Hell yeah. Can't wait to get this insanely invasive procedure done to me. That's going to cost like $40,000 minimum for fun. Psychotic. Yeah, it was awesome. I was throwing up for 7-8 months. Okay. And felt like shit all the time. And my back hurts all the goddamn time. And on top of that, it's an incredibly costly procedure. And it's also invasive. Sick. Definitely doing that for fun. You're a psychopath. Conservative policies, or at least like the harm that they perceive is happening, is literally always invented. And it's so psychotic that all you need to do is make someone describe who's doing this thing in the hypothetical. Okay? Who? Like, you think that there are people out there who are like, I'm pregnant. I'm going to carry this baby for 8 months. Okay? And I want the thrill. I want the thrill of someone scooping out the body parts of this fetus from my pussy. And that's the reason why I'm carrying this pregnancy to, 8 months, 8.5 months. And not because it is an immediate medical intervention that is necessary to save my life. Okay? Like, you are psychotic. You are a psychopathic individual if you think that people who have actually carried a pregnancy for 8 months are actually doing it for fun. It's insane.
Women's lives because
what about
of your
the unborn
morality.
children, though? Because let's go back to your born
Unborn
thing.
children
so let's
are
say
not persons,
you have a 9-month.
and the mother has more rights, in my mind, than the unborn child.
Yeah, that's a claim that you can make. But so a 9-month birthed child, or just 9 months and just now born, it's a newborn baby. A 5-month could be emergency C-section and could be birthed, right? Let's say they don't do that. What's the difference between the arbitrary choice of taking that child out of the womb at 6 months or 5 months?
Why don't we take all children out at 5 months?
No, what I'm saying is that the personhood just because of birth runs into a problem where it starts to say,
all right, guys.
Well,
my dad would say it's because the woman is being irresponsible. What is your dad saying? What, like that doesn't, so your dad, honest to God, is like, no, a woman is such a dumb broad. This woman, this hypothetical woman is such a dumb broad and so vicious that they literally f their body up for 8 months just to all of a sudden remember that they're pregnant. Like what is the argument there? It just doesn't make sense. Do you understand? Third trimester abortions are incredibly rare, and the only reason as to why it happens is due to a medical necessity. Okay? Some kind of, first of all, there's no place where, even when they say no exception, third trimester abortions, okay? Because there are some states where they say there are no exceptions. Like you can get a third trimester abortion. Okay? Those people are still locked out of that process when those people are still locked out of that process due to the financial and medically invasive procedure of getting an abortion, okay? No one is actually doing that unless there is severe harm to the carrier. There's no reason to try and legislate that by being like, nah, it's actually illegal until there's a medical necessity. Because in the process of legislating third trimester abortions, okay, we're not even talking about, second trimester or, the first trimester where like 90% of abortions happen anyway, where you take a pill, boom, okay, heavy flow period, it's dead, okay? This is not a real thing, okay? It's this big. Get the f out of here. But like, if you're talking about legislating third trimester abortions, for example, you are creating unnecessary paperwork and unnecessary hurdles for doctors to clear, okay? And in the process of clearing these unnecessary hurdles, doctors are sometimes going to refuse to do an abortion on someone who needed it. And in the process, the carrier is going to die. Now the kid is dead and the carrier is dead. Good job. That's how it works. So in order for random people to not fall through the cracks, I say there's really no reason to try and legislate this shit. It's just you're only doing it to make yourself feel better. Like you're actually stopping something that is not actually happening. And in the process, because you've invented a problem in your mind, and now you made it everybody else's issue.
I hate to do it, but I gotta do it. I'm sorry, that's time.
Okay.
Hey, appreciate it. I'm glad I was here. It was interesting. It was, I know my questions were more sort of policy oriented, I think, than maybe folks anticipated here, and I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't many people here who could address the policies. They were very, very sure of themselves as to why they voted for Trump, but a lot of it was sort of not material in any way.
So there was stuff that conservatives were saying today that I fundamentally disagreed with my entire heart, but at the end of the day, we're still part of the conservative movement. So I think there are people that I disagreed with, there are people that I completely did agree with, but the cool thing about this new conservative movement.
Yeah, there's also the other side of this, by the way, which is obviously legal restrictions on abortions don't actually make abortions more rare. It just makes them more dangerous because guess what? At the end of the day, it's still up to the carrier. That's right. So, you don't want a coat hanger abortion, okay? You don't want back alley abortions. It's so stupid. And before people say, oh, well, murder is illegal and people still murder. Yeah, there's a difference, dumbass. It's not the same as like going out and actively killing a person. You're making an active decision that you could actually technically hide too from the authorities in terms of like stopping the abortion from being carried out.
And the people here today it's people from all different walks of life sharing their perspective.
I don't think Sam had any, like, at least when I was speaking to him, I don't think Sam really had great responses because the reality is not on his side. I don't think socialism works. I think social programs can be good up to a certain extent, but we are very socialist as a nation, and yeah, I mean, I'll just say it again. Socialism does not work.
Oh, sick. That's a good note, man. Thank you. Yeah, socialism doesn't work, but America is very socialist. All right, that was an experience. I am reminded as to why I had a blanket embargo on the Jube, regardless of how much chatters will come in here and actively try to get me to watch the Jube. But that was rough. And it's funny because the Jube video was peak DEI. Oh my God. Hasan Reactions, one of the best ones in the React channel.